It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Adam Engst joins Andy and Rene to talk about what we saw at CES, including HealthKit, HomeKit, and CarPlay. We've also got the latest on Thunderstrike, the attack on Macs that takes advantage of the Thunderbolt port, and a whole lot more. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 437, recorded January 13th, 2015. McCarbon-based brother. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Squarespace. Creating and editing your website is easier than ever using the redesigned interface, Squarespace 7. Now with Getty Images, Google Apps integration, 14 new templates, and more. Try the new Squarespace at squarespace.com. Don't forget to enter the offer code MacBreak at checkout to get 10% off. And by Harry's. For guys who want a great shave experience for a fraction of what you're paying now, go to harrys.com. Get $5 off your first purchase by entering the code MacBreak when you check out. And by LegalZoom. Visit LegalZoom.com to save on your legal needs and gain access to a network of legal plan attorneys for guidance. LegalZoom is not a law firm, but provides self-help services at your specific direction. Visit LegalZoom.com and use the offer code MBW to receive $10 off at checkout. Time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. And just back from CES, Mr. Rene Ritchie of iMore.com. You look good. You don't look too exhausted. I saw your cleanse on Instagram.
I put the Retina iMac here, Leo, so I'm using that for podcasting now. So you should have 5K of Rene right now.
That actually, I wasn't going to say anything, but it does look good. It does look really good. It looks better.
We replaced a Haswell, a Nehalem Mac Pro, so we can see how far we've come.
Wow.
It's actually sitting on top of the carcass of a Nehalem Mac Pro right now.
I like it. It looks good. Anyway, welcome back. We'll get your CES report in just a second. Andy Ihnatko is also here, snowbound in Boston. Hey, Andy.
Icebound, but that's okay. We are hardy pioneer stock.
Yes, indeed. And he's also at the Chicago Sun-Times. And look, to fill in for Alex Lindsay this week, Adam Engst from Tidbits is here. Hi, Adam.
Hey, nice to see you here, Leo.
Nice to see you. You're in Upper New York State, I want to say.
Yeah, upstate New York, Ithaca, New York. So centrally isolated, as our bumper stickers say.
How many? Is that an actual penguin in there, or is that just a replica?
You know, if you don't have a 4-foot penguin in your office, something's wrong.
I want to point out that is not a fake Tux penguin. That's an actual. That is a real penguin model.
Ironically, it was brought to me by an Australian friend from Australia.
Is it an emperor penguin?
It is.
We must get these.
Life-size scale. Perfectly
a life-size emperor. Look under its feet, see if it's harboring eggs, because you don't want more, that's for sure.
It's nothing worse than an infestation of little penguins.
Actually, that'd be awesome.
Actually, this
so
time of
awesome.
Year, they'd be so happy here.
I want penguins for the Twit House studio. I love that idea. Little fuzzy little penguins.
Mr. Popper's Penguins.
Yeah, right. I grew up reading that as a kid. Huh? Adam, Tidbits is 24 years old, celebrating the longest tenure, I think, of any Mac publication. Going.
I don't know if it's. Well, that's right. We lost Macworld.
We lost Macworld, so you now are the king.
Well, there is MacTech too. They have some claim to it. But I definitely have the oldest internet publication.
Yeah, and Macworld is now an internet publication. So
yeah,
your oldest
They're
internet
not
publication.
Completely gone.
Yeah, and did you ever do a paper version of Tidbits?
No.
You were no fool.
Well, technically, the first 2 issues of Tidbits were laid out in paper back when Tanya was working at Cornell, and the initial idea was to help some of her coworkers keep up with what was happening in the Mac world.
Really?
But the PageMaker version lasted for 2 weeks. So
you thought better
the rest
of it.
We're at 1,254 weeks.
Wow. Yeah.
The IT department got wise to. Wow, why is this one printer in this one office generating 8,000 pages every 2 weeks?
Yeah, but it was actually one of those the line feed printers with the holes on the side.
Tidbits is a must read. If you aren't subscribing to it, it's free, and but do support them with little premium subscription. Throw a little moolah their way. So CES, and you at Tidbits referred to Philip Michael's wonderful piece in 6 colors.
Oh, that was just so perfect. I mean, Phil really pegged it in terms of just the appropriate, frankly, mocking of CES, because CES is such an institution that it deserves a certain level of mocking, as well as some people to go and prostrate themselves and ruin their feet, as I'm sure Rene probably had to do.
He writes, CES, which stands for Come On Everybody, Stuff, is the largest gathering of the tech industry outside of a 4chan chat room. With companies both large and small hoping to grab headlines with the latest gear and gadgets. How important is CES? Well, it's the launching pad for such innovative, disruptive products as MySpace TV, Lady Gaga's Polaroid sunglasses camera, a transparent washing machine from Haier, and Glass Up smart glasses. None of these products ever came to market. It's beside the point. Tech journalists get to see demos of them. And if you ever caught a glimpse of a unicorn, wouldn't you want to tell people about it? It actually is. They show Michael Bay's famous abandonment of the Samsung presentation last year. Nothing bad like that happened this year, I don't think. Yeah, this was before CES. He wrote this up kind of to prepare you. He was right about a few things. There were a lot of drones.
Yep.
This year, the drone demos move indoors as we embrace our new drone-centric future. From high above the CES show floor, drones will swoop down on the attendees below, giving people a bird's-eye view of the sights and sounds of CES, while also capturing the up-close reactions of surprised onlookers and unaware passers-by. There will be no survivors. So, nice article. But Rene actually went. And Mobile Nations teamed up with Geekbeat TV and Tom's Hardware, and you had round-the-clock coverage.
Yeah, we took your old spot in South Hall, put up a stage, and broadcast every day for 5 days. We survived, Leo.
And Serenity showed her star power and
absolutely
her stamina.
Yeah, we had Georgia, Serenity, myself, and Anthony, our videographer from iMore. Then we had Android Central, Windows Central, Connectedly, a whole bunch
Amazing.
of...
Yeah. So is there... I mean, Apple doesn't go to CES. There's always been a... Oh, they do?
But they don't, not officially. So they have like store buyers will go to see what they might want to put in the Apple store next year. And they're doing... There's people who go there doing competitive analysis. But
they go there to see what the other folks are doing, not to announce stuff.
Well, and to see, I mean, everyone's interested in seeing trends or seeing, like, there's a lot of accessory people there. This year, particularly, there was CarPlay, there was HomeKit, there was HealthKit, and they probably want to sneak a peek at what the people are doing with those technologies.
So there actually was a lot of CarPlay stuff at CES. I know you were looking for that. Tell us about that.
The CarPlay, so I'm of two minds about the CarPlay stuff. I really love it because, and I've told this story before, my car I can't upgrade. No matter what I do, I have to buy a new car to improve the in-dash entertainment, the infotainment system in it. But once I get a CarPlay car, every time I update my phone, every time I update iOS, that's going to update the functionality of the infotainment system. If I get Overcast on my phone, I can have Overcast on the CarPlay system. And it means that I don't have to learn a new system every time I get in a car. It's just all my data, all my content, all my stuff in an interface that I'm familiar with. And we're getting to the point where they're starting to implement that well. They're getting better touchscreen technology. Some of them are still using knobs, but in general, from car to car to car, if I'm an iPhone user, I just get an iPhone experience. And I think that's hugely valuable because cars never have consistent interfaces. You can get two cars from the same manufacturer and you have to learn how to use them every time you get into one. And that can be perplexing for people. And I think it's great if we can just have our stuff with us.
There were I know Alpine and Pioneer had a pre-announced aftermarket CarPlay. Were there other aftermarket? So if I don't have CarPlay in my existing car, I can add it, although it looks like it's not kind of a non-standard dashboard.
I think you have to have a two-high. I forget what it's called, but a double height unit in order to put it in. But we're going to test some of those. Yeah, those are coming out. Some people find them expensive, but again, it's it's basically the price of connectivity at this point. And hopefully, as people upgrade their cars, the CarPlay stuff's all interesting. I like the HomeKit stuff, frankly, much better this year.
That I want to hear about a lot. In fact, didn't we say please go over to the Home Automation Pavilion and see what's up?
Yeah, and I mean, so a lot of them were sort of, we're waiting on Apple, we're not sure. But there were several people, like Incipio, I was blown away. We went to the Incipio booth, and they're like, hell yeah, HomeKit is awesome. And they picked up an iPhone, and they said, lights on, and the lights turned on. They said outlet on, and the fan just pulled up. They said Incipio off, and everything connected to their system went off, and they said it was great to use because now instead of having all these little fiefdoms of different home automation technology and a folder full of apps, they just made their app compatible with HomeKit. You can go into it, you can set up homes and rooms and zones and activities. And I have this dream, Leo, that I'll be able to pick up Siri one day and just say, crash the compound, and everything will slam closed around me, and I can just watch TV and drink my beverage in peace.
Yeah. Nest just announced some really good connectivity with certain automotive apps, so that now your Nest at home will be aware that, oh, he's driving home right now. I need to start warming up the house because he's, according to his current ETA, he will be home in exactly 18 minutes. It takes 15 minutes for the house to get up to temperature, so I'll start cranking up the heat right now. And that's the sort of stuff where.
And now, so you can fluff your. It will make the Nest will make your dryer fluff your clothes for you when you're about ready to get up.
It also make like the lamps in your bedroom just sort of dim down and then up again to alert your spouse that perhaps it's time to get the UPS driver back on his way. Make sure the truck is out of sight.
I'm going to be really interested to see some of this stuff. We actually just replaced a 19-year-old car and a 13-year-old car. So we've gone from having the technology in our cars being cassette players to full-bore forward collision of warning and avoidance and all that kind of stuff. And it has been just a huge learning curve to figure out all the different things and look for the settings and figure out how to get the map pointing the right direction and all that kind of stuff. So, but CarPlay has been fairly inscrutable up to this point. So I'm really curious to see what that ends up looking like. And the HomeKit thing, for me, I'm not so interested actually in the specific commands. I want to see a lot of proximity things go on. So, when I walk into a room with my phone in my pocket, turn the lights on. So I don't have to, if I have to pull my phone out and say, Siri, turn the lights on, it's easier to touch the light switch.
There's a Tech Hive had a rundown of every HomeKit-compatible device they saw at CES. Elgato, a long-time Mac stalwart, has a new line called Eve, the Eve door and window sensor, Bluetooth LE, battery lasts 6 months. I don't really want to have to go around the house and change batteries on sensors, but that sounds really grim.
You do it for your smoke detectors and every other device in your house.
Yeah.
Well, Leo, see, that's where you're wrong. The beauty of this is it runs on AC power, so all you need is to have an outlet underneath every single window.
There was a great story from Ecobee. They do something very similar to Nest, but they have sensors in every room. So as you move to different rooms in your house, it can adjust those rooms automatically for you.
Yeah.
And it keeps track of the people in it. And the spokesperson who we were interviewing, said that at one point he was out of the country and his Ecobee just showed more and more people entering into the rooms. And he called home and he said, honey, dear, are you having a party? Yeah, she said, no, I swear, Dad, no.
Well, what was it?
It was a party, absolutely.
Busted. There's a new use for a sensor.
But you have to be aware, this has got to be a marketing problem. Like there are demonstrations that absolutely prove how wonderful and how sophisticated this technology is, but nonetheless, it creeps people the hell out.
Yeah. I think also people see it seems like a good idea. People aren't. You think people are going to really do this?
They'll do it for the entertainment stuff. Like they'll get the lights, they'll get the Sonos system, they'll get the home theater stuff, and then slowly, as that proves valuable to them, they'll get into the more boring.
It's always kind of a stretch. Like, oh, I want the thermostat to turn up when I'm on my way home, or, I mean, it feels like a stretch, like something you could live without.
At the same time, you could just schedule it. I mean, this stuff.
Well, I do schedule. I have like an old-fashioned thermostat,
right?
And I schedule it.
Right. And I mean, or for instance, we have geothermal heat with a radiant floor, so we set our thermostat to 69 and leave it there all winter.
Right.
So actually our thermostat is extremely complicated and we just never change it because,
Schlage, which does automated locks, will have a HomeKit-compatible lock. So
proximity.
You walk up, Bluetooth LE will unlock the door for you.
But think about how you've been replacing LED light bulbs around your house. You didn't decide to simply swap out everything all at once. It was like
gradually.
Yeah, exactly. I start off with this one light that's in the kitchen that really has to stay on all the time, and now pretty much every time a bulb burns out, I just replace it with something else. HomeKit is going to be like that, where I think the first thing that people are going to buy is something like a Nest thermostat because it will save you money. It is easy to use. It's very cool to interact with. And then over the course of 5 or 10 years, every time you buy something brand new, if it has that HomeKit functionality and it's within $10 to $20 of whatever else you're considering that costs $200, maybe you'll wind up with this wonderful network of just incidental purchases over the next 5 years.
I actually did a lot of this stuff back in the mid-90s. A friend of mine named Keith Ronholm in Seattle had actually started a company that did a lot of, he had a box that you hook with Mac software and you could attach sensors to it. And he had software that you could control all the sensors and you could control X10 devices. So you could do all the home automation stuff. And you know, he gave me one of the boxes to play with, and I got bunch of sensors and a bunch of X10 devices, and it was fun to play with. But you know, honestly, when we moved and the software sort of, I mean, I think it was, gosh, Mac OS 8, I forget. It never moved forward. It completely fell by the wayside. It wasn't something that I ever missed.
Yeah, I have Hue lights, and when we moved, I had a Hue and a Nest. When we moved, I just didn't bother hooking them up.
It really is up to people's comfort level. It was really great once I got my first like smart lights, and just the ability to turn on certain lights at sundown and then on at sundown, then back again. But I always come back to this. My favorite story about people adopting technology and finding their own comfort level has to do when I had taken over the Christmas decorating at my mom and dad's house, and of course I like switched over to, after 2 or 3 years, to like X10 lighting, because I could just leave this remote on the nightstand that they could just push one button and all the Christmas tree lights came on, the window lights came on, the outside stuff came on. And the first time I set this up, my mom was so excited about it. She thought it was the coolest thing ever. Oh, I don't have to go from like window to window and plug in. Oh, this is wonderful. And then so I tentatively said, well, you know, Mom, and I know that I'm entering the danger zone. I could set this up so that it turns on automatically at a certain time and then turns off late at night. And that's the point where she was out, because that was the house will burn down if I have a computer turning this on and off. But she liked the ability to press the button herself and do that.
iDevices
a lot of people like that.
iDevices, I use their iGrill, which I really like, has invested $10 million in HomeKit. First product is a connected plugs, the switch. That has a
aim high.
10, yeah, game on,
man. The switches are interesting, and Scipio has them too, because you can take any gadget you have, like a fan, like a portable heater, like a
but again,
anything you want to use.
That was X10 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So
but you know, my little 6-year-old godson is not going to use X10, but he loves Siri. Siri is his best friend. He'll talk to Siri all day long. You know, so that kind of stuff.
Shipping in April, $50 for the Switch. Let's see what else. iHome, you mentioned iHome. This smart plug, same idea. $39 second quarter. Blue Maestro, the tempo environment monitor. Oh, Lord. Keeps track on temperature, humidity, and barometric pressure. Does it change a lot in the home? I guess it does. So you can keep tabs on conditions in the nursery. Oh, my God. The pressure has gone up in the nursery. Quick, get the baby out.
I mean, it's going to be like a lot of stuff. There'll be turbulence and way too much and wackiness and silliness for a couple of years. Then it'll stabilize, and there'll be a bunch of really elegant sort of things.
You know, smartwatches kind of have won me a little bit. I was very skeptical. So maybe.
Yeah, it's all part about everything you buy being able to enhance, be another brick that builds this much bigger system. Yeah. Once you start wearing a smartwatch and you realize that, oh, it would be really nice if I'm walking through a room and I realize that, oh, that light's been on for 3 hours, to just simply do this, as opposed to pick up your phone and do something like that.
Is there a killer app? Because that would do it, right? The killer app that gets everybody to buy the hub and get in, and then you could slowly, gradually upgrade. What is the killer app? A garage door opener?
No, it's going to be. There's going to be a killer app. It's going to be a confluence of many little things when you finally can do that thing, like, you know, Siri, good night, and you know for sure your garage door is closed and your lights are off, and you're
how long do you have to do that before you get up every time just to make sure, right?
I think actually Andy's got it though. There's a smartwatch may be the trick, because if you have to pull your iPhone out of your pocket to talk to Siri to turn on the light, you're not going to do it. Even if you have to walk across the room, it's just easier to walk across the room. However, if it's on your wrist and you can just say, turn on the dining room light, maybe that is enough easier that you will actually do it rather than taking the extra 3 steps.
Yeah.
And also it does action, so you can...
Also, if the fact that you have a low power Bluetooth beacon on your wrist gives it the granularity to say that not only is Andy in this room, but he is sitting down in this chair where he often does reading. So I will gently turn down the light.
I think the proximity is going to be huge. I mean, if it can really tell where you are, and you can say, whenever I do this, turn on a light. Again, turn on a light if I walk into this room between when my sensor outside tells me that it's sufficiently dim, that kind of thing.
It's not just I'm sorry. I did interrupt. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just you know, basically it's gotta do what I want, not what I tell it.
But the killer app, I think, is going to be something like Google Now functionality, where I don't have to program it to say, well, if I'm inside this room between 4 and 8 and I'm sitting in this chair, it should be, gee, it's 7 out of 9 times that he sits in this chair at this time of day, he winds up using the watch or the phone to turn on this light. So if I sense that he's making his way from here to there, I'm going to gradually turn that light on, and he can easily turn it off if he doesn't want it. But if he doesn't turn it off, then I will also learn that, yes, we should definitely have this light now waiting for him when he enters the house. Stuff like that, where just magically you didn't tell it about the things that you really wanted to do. It just figured it out on its own. Just like you don't hire somebody because they're really good at doing the stuff you tell them to do. He's a good hire or she's a good hire because they figure out what needs to be done in this office without you telling them every single step.
One of the really nice things about it, though, is with HomeKit, you can do actions and you can string actions together. So, for example, I can have an action that I can say, Siri, game on, and suddenly my speakers come on. It goes immediately to the Xbox channel. The lights go red and silver. Anything that would take several different discrete actions, especially for young kids. I was talking to a friend of mine who was babysitting, and she was like, you know, the kids wanted to watch Netflix, and I don't have that. And I'm like, yeah, you do. It's on 19 different boxes attached to your TV. And she's like, I don't know how to find that. But you could just say to your watch, Netflix time, and, you know, the TV goes to the right channel and everything. For normal people, computers and home automation are still horrible interfaces. And when we talk about accessibility, you know, it's great. You can have people who are blind finally use this stuff, but it can also be people who aren't familiar with technology finally have access to this stuff. And I think that's where natural language interfaces and where the kind of simplicity and uniformity really pay off for us.
The other problem is that maybe you guys have had the same sort of experiences that I have, that the one way to make somebody convince someone, my God, this person is an absolute Mac genius, I had no idea such things were possible, he's some sort of wizard, is when you introduce them to Automator and say, here's how easy, show me something that you do that takes several steps that you do at least once or twice a week. Great, within 10 minutes, I've now automated that process for you. It's one of the most brilliant things that's inside the Mac OS, and it's something that almost nobody, no real civilian really uses. I think that points to, you can make an automation process as easy as pie for somebody, but they're still within going to be the mindset of, I will just do A, B, and C myself because programming my computer to do it is going to be too complicated.
It's totally true. We did Joe Kissel wrote a book for us, Take Control of Automating Your Mac. And if you don't think about it like, oh, you have to program, you're automating things. There are so many ways you can automate things. And it's been fascinating seeing people go, oh, yeah, I could use Keyboard Maestro, I could use Hazel, I could use Automator, I could use Text Expander. You know, it's all doing more things with one action. And just getting people into that mindset. So there's that book has a whole big chapter on getting into the mindset, because you really have to do that. You have to get past that sense of, oh, it's really easy, I just do X, Y, and Z. Well, what if you just had to do X? You know, and then all this Y and Z automatically happen. You got to get people to realize that.
A couple of disabled people in the chat room, BattleCam and Web 4000, who point out this is great for them, and I certainly agree. If it's hard to move, get around, being able to do this automatically. But, you know, this has been around for a while, and I'm really excited to hear that the Clapper has now added HomeKit compatibility.
Clap on, clap off.
The clapper lets you turn things on or off from anywhere
Siri,
in the
clap
room.
on.
Oh
Siri,
my God.
clap on.
Clapper
I
and the television.
suddenly have an idea for a brilliant Arduino or Raspberry Pi project. One servo and one pair of hands could just simply
That's what I need. I need a pair of
send
hands.
a command. And now you control anything that's controllable by the clapper.
America
And
made
yet, yes, you can
HomeKit,
just
Russia
have a
just made
speaker make
hands.
the sound, but that's not as fun as just two giant. And we put giant 3-fingered cartoon gloves on them.
Why Things who's done, I think Why Things has done some really great Wi-Fi enabled things like scales, baby monitors, heart rate monitors, blood pressure monitors. They have a Why Things and a new, by the way, the new watch looks great. I'm very interested in that. It's kind of a mechanical watch with smartwatch features. This is a home camera, IP based, but it also has environmental sensors, so it can tell you when the air in the house is bad. That's interesting. Detects motion too. Velvet Wire, I'm not familiar with them, but apparently they make an interesting iPhone charger. They now have the next generation Power Slayer Blue. That's oddly enough my Warcraft handle. This has Bluetooth and an app, so you can get a notification on your phone when your iPad is done charging. Hey, I'm done. Or
I gotta throw a flag in this play. You don't get to call something the Power Slayer and color it in cheerful iMac colors. That's just mixed messaging.
That looks like a cyan cable with a nice red something. I don't know what that is. So anyway, it's a smart charger. Thanks to Susie Oakes at Tech Hive for writing this and saving me. This is why I didn't have to go to CES. Chamberlain. This is a garage door opener. In fact, there were, believe it or not, some HomeKit garage door openers. This is the MyQ $130 MyQ garage kit. Can open the you need a Wi-Fi hub and a door sensor, and then you can see if your garage door is open from anywhere.
Or you could just push the button. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
just push the button on your garage.
Insteon. This is Microsoft's been pushing this one. This is a hub that will be HomeKit. I'm sure all the hubs. I'm sure SmartThings as well. In fact, I think Samsung announced that SmartThings will be as well. This is if you've got a hub, why HomeKit's another. Here's the Incipio, the smart outlet, the smart lamp adapter, and the power strip. And one more, the Honeywell Lyric. This is kind of to compete with Nest, right? Mm-hmm. But Nest is also going to be a HomeKit, right?
I don't know if
maybe
they've
not
HomeKit yet.
It's Google, right? Maybe they don't care.
Well, a lot of people, a lot of the bigger companies say that they have their own ecosystem and that's their priority, and they want to be the several hub, and it'll probably take a while to shake that out.
This thing uses an app. Will use your Apple Watch, so you can get a real-time snapshot of your home system with glances, and the watch's geofencing feature will let you engage out-of-town mode with one tap when the watch leaves the range of your home network. Or if somebody steals your watch, it gets really cold at home. I'm freezing. Did somebody steal my Apple Watch? The Lyric thermostat is available now, and the Apple Watch when it comes out.
Right, will be compatible with something that doesn't yet exist.
That really could be something that helps sell the Apple Watch. Again, the ability to say here is a specific user. He is here right now, because a lot of the things that I've really enjoyed about the latest Android updates is the ability to set up geofences that are related to my physical presence, and but getting someone to spend $350 on a category of hardware that they don't even think they need, it's not going to be a $350 reason, but I think that people can come up with $30 or $30 reasons to justify the purchases.
I was speculating, maybe it's just me, that a new Apple TV would be released as a hub for HomeKit. The Verge says
the current one works like that. As long as you have the latest release of the Apple TV, it'll work as a HomeKit hub. So the one that they released a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
It still seems that the Apple TV 3 is getting a little old in the tooth, but long in the tooth. Yeah. It's like
third generation or later Apple TVs running software 7.
You speak as though it still has any teeth left in its mouth.
I think it's gumming its food.
It's gumming, exactly.
So what can I do with the Apple TV? How do I?
It's remote stuff. So let's say you're in Europe and you suddenly realize you want to do something at home. You can say, Siri, Siri, turn on my lights so people don't think that I'm on vacation.
Siri, I'm at the airport and I forgot my passport.
Yeah, Siri, I left the stove on.
I hate Gossip Girl, but I want to binge watch it anyway. Could you just binge watch it for me while I'm safely out of the house?
Yeah.
No, Andy, I'm afraid we can't do that, Andy.
Does MFI made for iPhone, iPad, does that include HomeKit now, or is there going to be an MFH, or is there a certification program for HomeKit compatibility?
Yes, but I don't know if it's called MFI.
I don't think it's I'm trying to figure out why that would come under that spec.
They have been mentioning MFI, right?
Well, because a lot of them, they run on the iPhone too, so maybe there's some component
right.
The iPhone part.
Oh, yeah, of course. According to The Verge, the licensing program for HomeKit is just getting started, so nothing that you saw at CES is Apple approved. So people are saying we're going to be HomeKit because we've got the SDK, but Apple has yet to have a certification program for that.
That does feel like good news. If they're building stuff and then simply making it compatible later on, as opposed to we're building something specifically to take advantage of HomeKit, that's the sort of stuff that will change an entire market, as opposed to we're going to make an iPhone accessory. No, we're going to make a home accessory, and if you have an iPhone, that's great, but we don't necessarily need you to do that.
Well, and that's been the problem with home automation all along. You got Z-Wave and Zigbee and X and 10 and
fiefdoms.
Yeah, and you don't need another one. What you need is something that will do that. Is going to play nice.
Like right now, I take my iPhone out, I open the home folder, I tap the Hue app, I adjust the Hue lights, I leave that app, I bring the Sonos app up, I adjust the sound.
Right. Be nice to combine all that. I agree.
It's so much work, Leo.
Yeah. You're a single guy. Do you have a round rotating bed as well? I mean, does that help?
No, is that the thing? Am I supposed to do that?
I think so. I think you're saying okay, so I'm just thinking the drapes draw, the bed starts to rotate.
Yeah, the automated drapes were cool at CES. A lot of people had those.
I think you need Barry White.
Do you know,
Leo,
do you have any idea how much torque a motor needs to rotate around waterbed? Come on, Leo.
It's going to sound like you got a drone in the bedroom. It's not unusual.
They had one of the more popular things. They had drones that were on your watch, and they would take off from your watch, fly around, and then come back to your watch.
Wait a minute. What? You mean right on my wristwatch?
Yeah.
Little mini drone?
Yep.
Like you know those little birds that clean the
It was like a sci-fi
hippopotamus's ears. So now you can actually, without no Q-tips necessary, launch a micro drone. It'll just go.
The Dick drone.
My joke for CES was that they were 3D printing drones that would take 4K video that would play on your dishwasher. That was like CES summed up, according to my experience.
Oh Lord!
That sounds disruptive, though.
They had some really cool health kit stuff too. Like Athos has these shorts and shirts. They have for men and for women, and you put a little module in it, and then it reads like what happens with your muscle. So how much you're tensing your muscle, whether your muscles are in balance or not, and you can have like a personal trainer watch while you're doing it, or you can review it afterwards and sort of see like you're favoring your left side. You might have it's really good for physiotherapy or people who are trying to do injury prevention.
I'm so trying not to go with this one. I mean, is it a module in your shorts, or are you just happy to see me? I mean, yeah.
You can put it in your shirt too.
I like that. Actually, one of the nicest things about the Kinect on Xbox One is it can somehow tell your heart rate, I guess because you're turning red as you're exercising. And if you're not exercising hard enough, it'll actually say, step it up. Or if you're doing too much, it'll say, slow down, big boy. So that's kind of cool. No one uses this, by the way. But I think that's kind of cool. Athos, huh?
Yeah, well, it's cool because, again, like for someone doing physiotherapy, it's the same like with your tires can go bald because your axle is misaligned. And that's really hard for a lot of physiotherapists to diagnose. But if they can see that there's a muscle weakness or a muscle overload, then they can give you exercises that will, help you walk again or do all sorts of awesome things.
This is a category we've been talking about for a long time, the idea of smart clothing. Yeah. Neat.
It does point to how some of the greatest things that Apple's working on, the things that really get me excited, aren't a specific technology, but how well all these pieces can fit together. Because here we're talking about home sensors, about a wearable device that knows where you are. But imagine just if you have someone who has a health problem or is elderly, just the ability to have HomeKit talk to HealthKit and say, okay, you have only been in the bedroom and the bathroom adjoining the bedroom for the past 3 days. Acting on your instructions, I'm going to let your son and daughter know that you haven't been leaving the house for the past week. And it's great. This is grandma's. It's data like that really is useful for stuff like that.
Grandma has motion detecting pants.
Oh, it's just something is oh God.
You think I'm making that
so
up?
Ripe for abuse. Oh boy. You want to make sure you want two-factor authentication on that device because you don't want people making great sport of the data they're taking out of your underwear.
People with wearables are not.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what he's liking about the Lego movie, but I'm definitely going to 1 hour and 110 minutes to see what he's enjoying so much about the Lego movie.
We did kind of, I mean, this is what the Nike stuff was with the iPod, right? I mean, in a way, that's what that is. You put a sensor in your shoe. Yeah. Makes sense to extend those sensors to T-shirts and other.
And to make wearables just wearable, not just watches, or not just bands, but actually try to do other interesting things with them.
It makes I presume, makes article of clothing very expensive, hard to wash.
It's $100 for each article of clothing, and it's typical sportswear. It's the kind of stuff that you would get at Lululemon or something. And then the module, I think, is $150 or $200, but you can take it out of one and put it in the other. So you can use it in multiple articles if you want to.
Yeah. I'd be curious to give that a try. I actually participated in a research study. SUNY Binghamton professor a couple of years ago, actually a number of years ago at this point, was working with local runners and and attaching sensors to our legs and having us run and seeing what information he could read about the muscular contractions in different parts of the leg and different parts of the body, but it was really finicky to get the stuff on and get it reading and all of that. So I'll be curious to see how well the clothing actually performs.
I had David Pogue on Triangulation yesterday. It was great to see David again. He'd been on MacBreak many times years ago. And he actually had a great insight that kind of a light went on for me. I was asking why drones were so popular. He said, because we're ants on a tablecloth. We live in an essentially 2D world, and it's really thrilling to suddenly expand out into 3D and see ourselves. And he said that's similar to this wearable stuff, because we're learning about parts of ourselves that we don't normally know about. We're logging our sleep, our heart rate, our muscular activity, and it's the same kind of thing. It's this new view into what has been up to now a fairly limited view of ourselves. And I think this is true.
It's Athos activewear, Athos, not Atmos.
Athos, like the Three Musketeers.
Yeah, Athos activewear.
But I really think that a watch is going to be a lot more important for fitness and stuff like that, because you have to make the decision that you want to have this tracking device, that you want to have clothing that takes advantage of it. A Nike Fit was really useful, but you have to buy the special shoes. If you just buying a watch because it's cool and you like it, but it also happens to have these fitness features in it, I am now using a step counter. I'm now more aware of how many steps I'm taking every single day because that happened to be a feature of this watch that I happen to like. So it's when these things become ubiquitous, when you have them accessible to you, whether you make the choice to have them or not, and you can choose to see that data or not, that's when people really will get the benefits of these health apps. This
Athos stuff is a smart market, because there are performance athletes, serious, like hardcore athletes who do want this information and are willing to spend money for it. That's why Polar has been so successful with very simple heart rate monitors. I think this is a specialized niche market, but a very good one.
Yeah, I run with a Garmin Forerunner 620, for instance.
How much was that? That was hundreds of dollars.
Oh yeah, it's like $399 with the heart rate monitor, but it tells me things like cadence, ground contact time, vertical oscillation. So it provides some really interesting data. I will say that when push comes to shove, what's most interesting about it is the mere logging. That I don't actually wear the heart rate monitor all the time. I don't look at the data because it's a little hard to know quite how to act on it yet. That it's more about collecting data than being able to tell you what to do with it. So, I can just say that my cadence was 180 strides per minute during a speed workout, but what does that mean? I was trying to run fast. Of course it was going to be faster. So again, hard to know quite what to do with that information sometimes, but I think the first step is to always get that information. Then you can decide later on, or you can have a coach or someone who knows evaluate it for you.
Right. I think Athos is probably smart. This is a market where people spend a lot of money for this kind of information.
Well, they want to know if their squat fired 100% of their quadricep, Leo. If
exactly.
It's only 90%, it's not good enough.
Look at it. It's kind of wild. I wish it looked... So the ads show like you look like something out of Tron.
Yeah.
But in fact, you just look normal.
Tony Stark 4.0.
I really wish it had all those lines and glowing things. It would be much better. But this actually might be a smart... And by the way, it does not chafe. So
I just like that we're going there, that we're trying these things. A lot of them will fail, a lot of them will be silly, but we'll get somewhere.
Chafing is my favorite part of working out.
Will not
Chafing is the best.
This is very cool. So the shirt has 14 EMG sensors, which measure muscle activity, 2 heart rate sensors, 2 breathing sensors. You know what? If I were going to invest, I'd invest in this. This is smart. This is a market.
Of course, the real problem is you're going to have to wash the silly thing every day so you can wear it for the next day's workout.
Well, you need 2. At least you can swap the core in and out, right? So the most expensive piece can be swapped in and out. And it looks like it's kind of like a Under Armour or any kind of compression wear. So it's pretty standard. Interesting.
It isn't, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, only Adam Engst really is an athlete here, so.
I was about to say it's like you have to be at a certain level where that data is good. You have to be so good at what you're doing right now that you need information like that to make you better. For me, it's just like, well, how about this week you go out and you do your 5 miles?
My shirt would just say, "Eat a salad, you fat." No. All right. All right.
I knew you were thinking.
You know where I was going. Anything else from CES? New iPad cases and accessories.
I mean, there was a lot of cases. There was some that were like there was a battery case for $800 that had manta ray skin on it. But the thing that was interesting to me is we got to interview all the new. They announced 4K HDR Blu-rays at CES, and for me, the high dynamic range, the high color gamut stuff is more interesting than just the 4K. But I got to interview them one after the other, and one was like, "Our quantum pixels are the best," and the one's like, "No, those are stupid. It's the yellow. It's the yellow pixel that's the best."
I've done that interview.
Like, no, you're 4K. We're 4K beyond, and they're just all the arguing about stuff that there's no content for. I thought was just an amazing encapsulation of CES in general.
Cage match. Put them in a rink.
Yeah, cage match. It's Sony versus Panasonic in a fight to the field. Actually, kind of is.
Yeah.
You know, all of these companies are struggling because nobody's.
Samsung announced SUHD, not just
SUHD.
UHD. Yeah. And I asked them, it doesn't stand for Samsung. S is the letter they put in front of anything that they think is spectacular or beyond the norm.
Beyond the norm. But they will be the first 4K sets to be standardized with this new UHD alliance. So that's
which is not 4K. Like UHD is actually lower resolution than 4K, which blows 4K. My mind.
Well, it's because of the aspect ratio is different, right? It's I
know.
I don't
care. Make a TV.
You know what Pogue said, and I think he's right. He said, don't rush out to get one, but just like everything else, every TV will have it in 5 years or 4 years, and when you get your next TV, it'll have it. But there's no reason to go out and get a new TV just for that right now, especially if you don't sit 3 feet from your TV.
Just to watch upscaled
you'll be watching upscaled content. There is, as you mentioned, a Blu-ray, a new UHD Blu-ray will be out in the fall as well. But these things will be expensive. You'll be an early adopter. You'll get them, or somebody with a home theater, and the rest of us will it's like 3D. It'll just come with the TV, and then it won't because no one wants it.
I asked the Sharp guy about all these displays, like the 4K displays and things. And how high can you go? And he said he stopped counting. He said we can do like 600, 900 DPI now.
They're talking 8K and 16K.
Yeah, I was talking about smartphones too, because now we have like 400 DPI and 600 DPI. And he just said, forget about it. We'll make those displays so dense. Right. You'll need math skills to solve that stuff.
Yeah. We're going.
Just look at the screen.
We're going too far at this point.
Yes.
Anything else? I just want to make sure we've covered the Apple angle on CES in its entirety before we move on. So HomeKit, HealthKit, CarPlay.
Those are the big things.
Those are the things we looked at.
Yeah, Lightning. I mean, a lot of people are getting Lightning adapters in their accessories now because Apple opened up the program. But because they opened up the program, there's incredible demand for Lightning chips, so they're hard to get. So it's one of those things where we're
so you need a special chip to make a Lightning cable.
Yeah, because there's a lot of intelligence in the chip. It's a digital. It can switch signals and do different things. So it's a specific chip that controls it. And now that it's open to anybody, Mophie can put a Lightning charger instead of a micro USB in their case. But they need the Lightning chips, and everyone is trying to buy them now. They're trickling out.
Who makes the Lightning chips? Samsung, probably, right?
It's probably a couple factories.
I was trying to think about how the new really cool rotation independent USB 3.0 micro connector changes the map for Lightning. That it seems to do pretty much everything that all the business stuff that the Lightning connector would do. The idea of being able to not have so much tied into the cable itself, and the idea that you won't have to just use it with Apple stuff. I mean, I'm already kind of sick and tired of making sure I'm packing 2 different kinds of cables whenever I leave the house. It's I know that the rumored 12-inch MacBook Retina uses again speculatively uses the new this new connector instead of Lightning. But I wondered how that might change the map in the future. If Apple might sometime, not in the next generation, but maybe the generation after that, say, well, hell, if we have to support this new connector just to support other people's cameras and other people's devices, we may as well just use this on our phones as well.
Right.
People be so angry with all their Lightning accessories they bought.
So according to ChipWorks, which tore these cables apart, there are 4 chips on a Lightning cable. There are 2 transistors, an NXP NX20P3, and a Texas Instruments, unpublished Texas Instruments chip, which they think is a security feature. It's for authentication. So this is not look at that. Look at that. That's crazy. You got a motherboard in your cable. Crazy.
Well, I mean, if you look at the old dock connector, they had 30 pins, but then some of those pins became obsolete and they had to reassign them, and older cables did FireWire and new ones, and it just became a bit of a mess. So they really wanted to be able to dynamically reassign all those pins.
Yeah. This is a computer and a cable.
Yeah.
Golly. So a TI makes at least one of the chips on there.
Has
They
anyone
shipped it,
tried
what,
to
3
put
years
Minecraft
ago?
on
I
it?
mean,
There's an EEPROM on it. An erasable programmable read-only memory with either 64 or 128 bits of storage.
See, now I'm certain. I refuse to believe that no one has tried to create a version of Minecraft that runs on that chip.
Doom, it's running Doom.
First Doom and then Minecraft. That's the two rules. You have to have it running everything.
So this is wild.
The real question is, we saw Thunderstrike this week. Now we're going to have Lightning Strike.
Lightning strike. We'll talk about that.
Someone
Actually.
hacks into the lightning cable.
That was juice jacking, right? They've had that for a while.
Yeah. We'll talk about Thunderstrike. We'll talk about other Mac news, including more speculation on this new Retina MacBook Air, particularly because the other big announcement, or one of the big announcements at CES, was these new Intel chips. And that means now the other shoe has dropped. The Broadwell U is here. So that's coming up as we continue on MacBreak Weekly with Rene Ritchie from iMore.com, Andy Ihnatko. I went out of order. Andy Ihnatko from the Celestial Waste of Bandwidth, also the Chicago Sun-Times, both equally important media outlets. And Adam Engst, the man in charge at tidbits.com, along with Tanya, his wife, and that giant penguin. I'm sorry, life-size.
You're ignoring the coolest part. He has a copy of every edition of Internet Starter Kit behind
I saw
him.
that. He's got boxes of internet
unless
behind
he's still
him.
fulfilling orders, I think.
That's every edition and translation. That's what
awesome.
that stack is.
When did the Internet Starter Kit come out?
1993. It was the 5th internet book.
Wow.
And we were only 5th by a week. There were 3 that were out for a long time. They were out for a year or so. And then in Mac Internet Tour Guide beat us by a week.
Bastards.
But we had all the stuff you needed.
Oh my God! Ah!
Yes, excellent.
It moves.
I need that on my computer. Can you get that doing on my computer too?
I remember going to the very first. He's on a. What is he on a stick? You got a penguin on a stick?
Flying Shadow.
Jason Howell on the keyboards there, kitten on the keys, man. That's amazing.
Do you mean that every time that I've tried to fill time by making up something that sounded halfway intelligent, you could have just put on an animated, adorable penguin that people would have enjoyed twice as much?
Only if YouTube has a version of that animated, adorable penguin on top of a green screen. Then
That's
yes, I
all
can totally
about
do
the
it.
green screen. We got Shutterstock. Don't forget, Shutterstock
right,
could give you a lot of good
Yeah,
stuff.
that's true.
You get the watermark, but that's okay. Actually, we have a subscription.
we
You
have
could
an
actually buy those. I remember going to the first Internet Expo, which is since gone.
Oh, that lasted like 3 years.
But it was so fun because it was tiny, right? And there was 10 people. And I remember O'Reilly there with a pile of Internet in a Box kits. So this was actually a little later than your starter kit, but this actually had discs because you got, I don't think you got Netscape. I think this is earlier than that. I think you got Mozilla or what was it? No, Mosaic.
So it was NCSA Mosaic, but we shipped the first web browser we shipped with, I believe, was MacWeb, which was actually the first one for the Mac.
That was based on Mosaic, as I remember, though, right?
No, it was actually completely separate. It was done by a guy, Robert Kao at CERN. He worked with Tim Berners-Lee, and it wasn't a very good program, but it was the first web browser for the Mac. And then then NCSA Mosaic, and after that Netscape. And we actually never put Netscape on a book. I mean, we the discs, we had all the software you needed, which is why the book did so well.
Right.
But the problem with Netscape was they wanted $5 a copy.
Right.
Which was insane. And remember at the time, Internet Explorer was the underdog. So we went over to Microsoft and they said, "Oh, sure, you can have Internet Explorer for free." Okay, that's a hard decision not to make.
Yeah, that's when Netscape went under, I think.
Pretty much. That was the cause of it, because they were greedy on those buffs. They bundled with all the books, they would have been there.
Yep. They wanted to charge for Netscape, and along comes Microsoft. And the first IE, 1 was terrible, and 2 was terrible, but 3 was okay. 3 was usable, as I remember.
Always 3.
Yeah, always, isn't it? That's probably where that started.
No, Windows 3.
Yeah. We're going to take a break, come back with more. Loved having these 3 people. This is a good group. Our show today brought to you by another good group in New York City, the folks who do Squarespace, simply the best place to host your website. Your first website, your next website. Maybe you're not getting the most response on your website. Maybe your website doesn't look as good as it should. Squarespace does it for you. In fact, they just launched Squarespace 7. These guys don't stop. They don't rest. It's amazing. The completely redesigned interface. It's easy now. There's no more preview mode. So you're working on your site. You say, you know what? That border ought to be bigger. Or can I add a Twitter feed? And you just do it. You don't have to toggle between the site manager and the preview mode. You can see how your changes look on tablets and mobile devices too, because Squarespace is what we call mobile responsive. It looks great on all sites, all size screens. 14 new designs give you a total of 30 templates, including, and this is for the first time, specific profession templates. So they've got architects, restaurants, e-commerce, bands, artists. For instance, the Fulton template has long scrolling pages with background images and full-width galleries and albums. Great for an agency, for a restaurant, anybody who wants to show off images, even a band. It's just gorgeous. Cover pages, too, now. You've got 10 templates for creating quick landing pages for your brand, your personal identity, to promote a new product. That makes it very easy to do. Google Docs integration. That's nice. Works with Gmail, Google Docs, Sheets, Drive, Calendar. And you can even easily link branded email accounts to your domain. They're good developers, so good that, in fact, some of these guys had some extra cycles. You may know Squarespace just did a note app, just for fun. They now have, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like they got 4 different apps. The Portfolio app for photographers, which pulls images from your site and creates a beautiful portfolio on your iPad so you can show your clients, your bride. The Notes app is still there. In fact, it's now available on Android as well as iOS. Metric, which gives you all the stats on your site, including social media follows. And the Blog app, which lets you post, moderate comments anywhere. Blog is also available on Android now. The developer platform is awesome. If you don't have to be a whiz to use Squarespace, but if you are a developer, you can customize it infinitely. This platform used by some of the world's top digital agencies to create sites for their clients. You're using basically the same coding platform Squarespace uses. Getty Images built in, e-commerce built in, social media, and all of this just $8 a month, and that includes a free domain name when you register for a year. But look, here's the deal. Just try. Aren't these gorgeous? I mean, they are really gorgeous. Just try it. You don't need a credit card. If you go to squarespace.com, you don't even need our offer code. Just click the Get Started button, and you'll be using Squarespace immediately. You've got 2 weeks to create a site. You can import up to 10 records from your existing site to see what it looks like. Really get a sense of it. Switch templates to your heart's delight. And by the way, if you're an existing customer, 7 is available to you. Just go to your settings tab and you can click a button. Squarespace.com. All I ask is if you decide to buy, and I know you will, get 10% off by using our offer code MacBreak. Squarespace. Start here. Go anywhere. Don't forget the offer code MacBreak for 10% off. Leo Laporte, MacBreak Weekly. This isn't our first episode of the new year. It's our second. But it's our first episode after CES. Really, the year doesn't begin until CES. That's when it really starts.
Can't start the new year till the old CES is over.
Yeah, right.
Or rather, until you recover from the cold you picked up at CES.
Adam mentioned Thunderstrike. This is, it's somebody's. So this is a category of attacks that have been around for a while. Anything, including FireWire or eSATA, that gives you direct memory access, DMA, to the internals of the computer, can be used to read the memory of the computer. So Tremel Hudson, who's a security guy, found out that yes, Thunderbolt can do that as well. But attacker has to have physical access to your Mac, and you have to. It's actually kind of complicated. You have to reinstall firmware and so forth.
This is a little bit different, actually. This is not a direct memory access.
Oh, it's
attack.
not. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I thought it was.
Well, it's that category is how it gets started. But what's interesting about Thunderstrike is that you can plug in a malicious Thunderbolt dongle, and I just like the concept of a malicious Thunderbolt dongle.
That was a cover band.
MTD,
yeah, right. Clearly a band name. And reboot the Mac, and it will rewrite the firmware, the boot firmware of the Mac. with
and change
anything
the key so you can't
Right.
fix it.
Right, precisely. This falls into the category of the only way to fix this, I suspect, would be to replace the motherboard.
Holy moly!
And this is a proof of concept. It's not done. I mean, it's not like, he showed that you could actually do. He showed that the attack worked, and that he could do this, but he didn't actually write new brute firmware code that was malicious.
He's not using DMA to read RAM. He's actually somehow what is it? But you're writing RAM, right? Because you must be
no RAM. It's only dealing with the boot
firmware.
ROM.
Wow.
And that's what's fascinating about this, because all you have to do is plug in this device and then reboot the computer, and you own it. Because your code is then at the firmware level. You can't stop this with software, because the software is never loaded. The operating system comes a lot later.
So theoretically, you could create a malicious Thunderbolt device, right? And just like a Thunderbolt USB key. This is like bad USB. And give it to the person. Say, hey, just reboot before you use it. And boom.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
you don't have to have physical access. You just have to get them to plug something into their Thunderbolt.
This is probably not so much a social engineering situation as what I believe in the security industry is called the evil maid problem.
Right.
You leave your computer in the hotel room. All they have to do is plug this thing in, reboot it, and you can reboot any computer by holding the power key.
It's easy.
So either that, or if you are traveling internationally at customs, when they can take your computer away and do whatever the hell they want with it. Doesn't matter what kind of passwords you got. Firmware passwords do not help. Obviously, nothing you can do at the operating system level helps. So what it comes down to is the only protection against this sort of attack, again, this one isn't an attack yet, it's just a proof of concept, is maintaining physical control of your computer at all times. And when you are in the kind of situations where you, as a corporate executive or a tech person for a big company or a government employee, could be targeted. This is a very directed attack.
And we have seen this, people coming into the U.S. and other countries, they can legally take your stuff briefly.
Even if you're a U.S. citizen, when you're at customs, you have no rights.
They could say, hey, we'd like to look at your laptop briefly.
That's why I'm so boring that no one would ever want anything that's on my computer.
Well, okay, so
boring, boring.
But it's what? So once, let's say it's happened to you, what kinds of things could they do? They could have it behave normally, right? Except that every 5 days it sends all the keystrokes back to the home office.
Anything in theory that could be fit into this boot firmware code.
Up to the skill of the programmer.
Yes. Well, obviously, yeah.
Basically, what the guy said was that it was very easy to imagine this being weaponized.
Right.
Kind of was the term.
Well, we've seen NSA attacks of this kind.
Or Stuxnet.
Stuxnet.
I mean,
but also bad USB takes advantage of the fact that there are EEPROMs in all USB devices. Mm-hmm. So it's the same idea. You can these are electronically erasable, programmable read-only memories. That's the boot ROM. That's the EFI ROM in the Mac.
Attacks that we saw where people would plug accessories in. Yeah.
Right.
That's why it's a bad idea to use when you see public charging stations to use any of those. There's also, I mean, I was talking to some people a couple of years ago whose job it is to harden hardware for travel to places that they're expecting, like business travelers who are doing really, really high profile deals where they have a reason to expect that a government will want to get access to their data at some point. And they talked about 3 different things to do, one of which is from low level stuff like you can buy security tape, that like tamper tape that you simply cover your ports with it, so you will at least know that, okay, this person there's no reason why the seal over my USB port should have been broken, but there it is broken. I need to now not trust this computer. Wow. To special cases for phones where it will simply block all these ports, and you have to again physically break this thing off, and you cannot put it back on again to do something like that. But the third thing, which was the most interesting, is to say that if you are really transacting on that level, buy burner, not just burner laptops, but they recommend Chromebooks where you just there's very little. It's a very low profile sort of thing, and basically you just simply set fire to it when you leave. Wow. I mean, they actually have mentioned things like you can secure wipe some of the data, and some of them actually use these old things like almost as gratuities when they leave. But the idea is that here's what you remove, here's what you do, but do not even consider taking a device you've introduced into a foreign network, I mean by another country, and then taking it back home and introducing it back to a network that you're using.
Adam, has Apple, is there a fix for this? Has Apple patched this?
Apple is aware of it, absolutely. And in the newest Macs, the Retina iMac and the new Mac Mini, it is partially addressed. And Apple has told Rich Mogul, a security editor, that they are working on firmware patches for other Macs.
That's kind of interesting because the 5K came out last year. So they've known about this for longer than we have.
Well, and I mean, I think this guy is a legitimate researcher. So when you're a legitimate researcher, you tell the company in advance
before you tell anybody else.
They also have security teams that just in general work on hardening things all the time as well.
Is it possible to backpatch the firmware and prevent this? It seems like you need a hardware fix almost.
Yeah, as far as I know, you would sort of have to do the same thing in reverse, and I can't really imagine Apple doing that. Yeah. It strikes me as much more like you'd want to do something where basically Apple's opinion was you just come in and get a new motherboard.
Wow.
You know, that they know how to do that. It was funny when I was editing this article. I remembered way back in the day when I was a student at Cornell, we had a bunch of public rooms with laser writers. And people may not know this, but laser writers all had passwords built into them. And you could change the password with a PostScript program. And the passwords were always 0. So then the printer driver knew to basically send password 0 to be able to print to the laser writer. But some student at Cornell figured this out and changed the password on one of our laser writers. And there were 32,767 possible numbers. And it took 11 seconds to do a try on a number.
Oh, wow.
So we calculated it was going to take, 3 months or something to run a program to find this. Even worse, it was an EEPROM that only had 10,000 writes. So you would kill it a third of the way through. Wow. And so, I mean, basically what we were faced with was replacing the motherboard in this laser writer, and then finally either the guy or a friend or someone kind of let us know what the password was, and we were able to change it. Because
did he just want to have that printer to be his own? No one else could use it.
Yeah, basically, because the printer was then it would sit there, it would have a down sign on it, and he could walk
waiting
up to it any time and use it.
Holy cow.
Oh, yeah, no, that was fun. If you have access to I think Adam and I probably have shared experiences in our respective computer labs during the 80s, where if you had access to the red and the blue books that Adobe published, you could do all kinds of things. Like I remember one time there was a fellow who thought that, hey, look, laser printer, I know, I'll print my own letterhead, and rather than I'll print 2 or 3 copies and photocopy them, no, I'll print page after page after page after page, and didn't understand why. At the second time he tried to do it, it was always bork itself after page like 11. It's because, okay, I'm on the network now. I'm looking at this input queue and say, oh no, he doesn't get to do that.
We should point out that this does require, if it's not, even though it's not DMA, it does require the kind of access that Thunderbolt or maybe FireWire has, not USB.
Yeah, full Thunderbolt. But in case anyone doesn't know what Andy was talking about.
Oh, look at that. I love
those books in Beneath Apple DOS. Those were like that's like having the Necronomicon. It's like
PostScript programming. Nice, nice. I think I remember writing one bit of code in PostScript, and then I stopped. I thought better of it.
I had a friend who actually wrote another friend's resume in PostScript. This was before we had a decent MacBreak level programs, and he actually programmed her resume.
It's like using tech or something. You're writing at a very low level. Is PostScript gone, by the way? What is?
That's actually a good question. I was wondering that recently too. I'm like,
what's in the laser writer?
What's printers these days?
Yeah, what do printers do these days? I think there was like GDI. There were other ways to write images to a laser printer. But I don't know what printers do these days. I have no idea.
HP had something.
Had
their own language.
PCL.
PCL. So PCL, printable language.
And there was display PostScript, which was awesome.
Well, then PDFs are still in PostScript, I think.
Yeah. PDF is based in PostScript.
Yeah. That's display PostScript, and the next famously used display PostScript. So did BOS, right? Speaking of BOS. Were we? Feels like we always are talking about BOS for reasons I don't know.
BOS on a watch.
On a watch. That's it.
WebOS.
It was WebOS, but BOS would be even better.
BOS is actually
Workbench, Amiga Workbench on a watch.
I'm fascinated now. I'm going to do some research into a PostScript.
Yeah, it's interesting because we got an Epson AccuLaser, I don't know, like 10 years ago, something like that. I mean, our last laser writer Select 620 or whatever it was, or 360, I forget what number it was, finally, it became too hard to keep it on the network via local talk bridges. And so, finally got rid of that and got an Epson AccuLaser. But that's PostScript, but I just don't know what happened after that. I've completely lost track of the entire technology, and the printer keeps working, so I can't justify replacing it.
Right. I think so PostScript, for people who, what was PostScript? It's basically a programming language of
for
vector
display.
For vector graphics.
Yeah. And basically everything. So I mean, that's where we got the entire concept of fonts as algorithms.
TrueType was because Apple couldn't license PostScript for fonts, so they did the TrueType fonts.
Apple
or didn't want
Microsoft.
to. And Microsoft, right? I'm just looking through the Wikipedia article to see if anybody's still.
Tell us, please, what's happened to PostScript in the last 10 years?
Yeah. Here's a hello world in PostScript. Yeah. Okay.
I wonder if they got
it was kind of a miracle. There was a guy by the name of Don Lancaster who was like the first real Pied Piper of PostScript, and he would publish these PostScript programs that would cause your printer to eject a beautiful piece of vector line artwork. Because Adobe Illustrator was not available back then, it was like, holy mother of God, what magic has just happened? A 300 DPI picture of a cat swinging a baseball bat.
I just want to point out that you can still find Don Lancaster's Guru's Lair PostScript library online. It has not been updated since 1995, I think. Look at the layout.
It's a good thing to worry through while you're going through your DAC International Industries catalog.
Yes, DAC.
We had
A. Kaplan for the win.
We had David Gelfman on Debug a couple of years ago, and he talked all the way through Adobe to display PostScript to cups to AirPrint, and it was fascinating.
Wow! So you have covered this.
Yeah, well, the Apple-facing aspects of it. Wow! But it was fascinating.
But this is like learning, I don't know. It's just LaTeX or something. It's we don't need it anymore, thank God.
I think it was also a little particularly Don Lancaster stuff was a little bit like those old the mainframe things where you'd run this little program and it would spit a picture of the moon landing to your line printer. It
was definitely the sort of thing you'd have to be Eddie Deason or Eddie Deason type in order to get into this. It
was a 1K file that generated a 300 DPI image of the moon landing. It's amazing. So this is an Apple page, and I'm wondering, Adam, could you put firmware password protection?
Apparently, according to Trammell Hudson, does not help.
Does not help.
It's below that.
Good Lord.
Yeah. I said, this guy, I mean, I don't know him. I've just been sort of reading about him a little bit. He's like a tech guy at a hedge fund. He does this stuff in his spare time. Yeah. And he's good. I mean, he's found some other fairly high-profile vulnerabilities.
He's some sort of gainful employee.
Yeah, that's just it. Is that he's got this day job, and apparently they're totally cool with him doing whatever he wants.
Speaking of money, lots of it. The app ecosystem is really a rich ecosystem. Apple says that it paid $15 billion last year to app developers and, of course, got their $4.5 billion cut out of that. That's nothing for Apple, but it's a lot for app developers.
How much of those were your Simpsons donuts, Leo? How much of those were your Simpsons donuts?
And how much went to each app developer? So
Apple is always so proud to reveal the number. They're never proud to say, well, let's see a chart of how many of these are game in-app purchases and how many of these are individual apps.
And of course, it's probably the top 10 developers who get 90% of the money, right?
Yeah. I'd love to see that chart.
It's all in Candy Crush Saga.
I'm not even sure it's 10.
Really? Yeah. Well, you got to figure
closer to 5.
Clash of Clans, Candy Crush,
EA,
because they do the donuts thing and I'm curious how much of it is first sale money and how much of it is in-app purchase.
That's if Google and Microsoft really want to bring Apple down, all they have to do is set financial investigators on their case to get the number of here's how much money Apple paid to the Kardashians last quarter.
I don't
they
know if
would
Google Play is
never
any different,
recover
though.
from that disclosure.
I don't think Google Play is any different, though. I think the people making the most money there.
Then let Apple investigate them back. Anything we can do to break the Kardashian hegemony over in-app purchases.
Didn't they say, I want to say, yeah, the iOS ecosystem, all told, has created more than 500,000 jobs.
Apple put up a new site. Well, they updated their site about...
Citation needed.
Well, I mean,
needed,
it comes from the Apple press release. That's the citation.
There's a whole site that Apple...
I'm gonna need to see their math on that.
What counts as a job exactly?
Because
Because
there should be a link there that goes
these
to
five
Apple's
people
site.
making millions of dollars can now afford to buy a third and fourth boat, and those boats need crews, and they need people to wash the boat.
Well, they have a whole page.
You think they're going to raise their own kids? That's another 8 jobs.
Apple.com/about/job-creation. They have a whole page. Over the years, Apple has driven incredible job growth and created entirely new industries. In fact, our products and innovations have led to over 1 million U.S. jobs from our engineers. 1 million, 1 million. I have the hair for it. 1 million jobs from engineers and retailer employers to suppliers, manufacturers, and app development. These are 1 million U.S. jobs. 620,000 to the iOS ecosystem. 334,000 jobs at other companies resulting from Apple's spending and growth, and 66,000 actual Apple employees. 380,000 members of the Apple Developer Program have paid $99 each.
That's good money.
Yeah. Of App Store income earned by U.S. developers, $8 billion plus. 78% of companies making apps are located outside Silicon Valley. It's interesting. It's interesting that Apple has made this page. I mean, if
I think they did it a couple of years ago when they were being pushed about bringing jobs back to America.
Right.
And they showed that, yes, through factories that are in America, like the back then it was a Gorilla Glass.
Not just, it's not just factory, I mean,
they were trying to show the human or the developer economy.
Yeah. And I have to say, I think it's probably the case. We know a lot of people coming out of college who say, I'm gonna do apps. And I might even start my own business. I might not even go somewhere to do apps.
Solo mo lo so.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
So social, local, mobile, local, social.
What? Are you
Local,
speaking
mobile,
English
social.
there? Is that Quebecois?
Silicon Valley. No, it's Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah, right. Which is coming back, I'm happy to say. The new Cupertino campus created 41,100 jobs.
And that's just building the Mario Kart track underneath.
That's just the Mario Kart.
That's just to cover up all the environmental impact of cover-ups.
Yeah. 12,600 full-time construction jobs for 3 years.
They should have a linear or a synchrotron under that.
Oh, there's so much they could do with that circle. If you look at, and we showed it last week, the drone footage of this. The circle is there. I mean, it really is there. You could see it being built. Apple data centers, U.S.-based customer support, 19,000 AppleCare jobs, 8,000 home-based AppleCare advisors, 28 call centers in 18 states. Wow.
So what they're saying is that their software is really, really faulty and needs a lot of people to walk through it.
Andy Ihnatko, you've always been an Apple hater.
I'm just trolling. I'm sorry.
It's just for the lulls.
It's like the classic Beatles song where Paul is saying the lyrics that are positive and then John says the things that are wryly negative.
Life is very short.
Classic.
And there's no time.
It's getting better all the time.
Life is short. You're going to die.
And so this is Christmas. What have you done?
I'm still reading that Intune Apple the Beatle history. That's so great.
I just finally got to the end of it about sometime in mid-December because I had to do it in chunks with such a big book.
Oh yes, so big.
And also it's like, oh, when's the next one coming out? I want to find out what happens to these lovable.
Yeah, are they going to make it? Yeah. Are they going to the top of the pops, Johnny?
I hope that John Lennon finally finds his female soulmate, because I really think that's what would create a dynasty.
I'm at the point where they've signed their first autographs on a tour of Scotland.
Yes.
In fact, they signed these autographs because the van they were touring in had a horrific crash, severely injuring their drummer, and a bunch of girls noticed that the van was like an entertainment and come running out of their little Scottish hovels and go, Are you entertainers? Here, sign this. And Paul McCartney was not using the name Paul McCartney. He signed Paul Ramon.
Oh, that's where the Ramones come from.
Yeah.
And then he learned a fourth chord, and he was not allowed to call himself a Ramon
Couldn't be a Ramon anymore. Isn't that weird? All right. I don't know where we fell off the track here. Apple maintains Mac sales in a momentum in holiday quarter. Projection. This is Gartner Group. We, take these all with a grain of salt. Apple shipped, according to Gartner, they estimated 2.1 million Macs in Q4, up from 1.9 million in Q3. I'm sorry, Q4 last year, marking an 11% increase.
So here's the question I have about these numbers. Every time Apple gets on stage and talks about their numbers, they talk about how the industry as a whole dropped by 6%, but Apple's going up by 20%. I didn't have time to look up all the specifics, but these numbers don't quite jive with what Apple tells us, do they?
Well, there's numbers and there's numbers.
There's lies, damned lies. And
Overall, according to Gartner, PC shipments 18 million units in Q4. That's an increase of 13%. Actually, I think that the PC market was dying for the last couple of years and has kind of come back.
It's coming back, or it's doing that surge that happens before you really die.
Where you take that last breath and you twitch a little bit and but then they go.
No, but it does look like there's a renaissance because as PCs are getting smaller, thinner, lighter, longer battery life. So everything that we liked about tablets is now becoming part of
this. Is a kind of an interesting. This is Apple U.S. market share, and of course, most of us come from the dim, dark days when it was in the single digits. 3%, 4%. And even though it goes up and down, it has been trending up now, about 11% of the 11.5, 11.9, something like that, of the overall computer market. That's pretty good.
A lot of Alex Lindsay buying Mac Minis and iMacs.
Yeah. Well, it's a big jump from those early days.
Especially as some of us have, it's a little bit difficult to maintain the faith as you see those pie charts of how much money Apple makes from things that are not related to the Mac.
Right.
To wonder, maybe Apple's going to either discontinue the Mac or make it more like an iOS device. So it's really great to see a line like that indicates that it's a growth product for them and will continue to be an independent, free and independent nation.
By the way, we should celebrate. It was 8 years ago Friday that Apple unveiled the iPhone. That's pretty exciting.
A widescreen iPod is an internet communicator, and it's a breakthrough, the revolutionary mobile phone. Are we getting it yet,
We should
Leo?
play that clip. I love that clip.
Are we getting it yet?
Yeah. We play it all the time, but it is 8 years ago that Steve Jobs gave probably his best keynote. And certainly now that we've seen the behind the scenes of how tricky that was to get that prototype to stay alive, we appreciate it even more.
It's for context, I think it really had everything to do with the radios, because I held one in my hand and used it like that afternoon, and it was perfectly stable except for the one app that was just a JPEG. But of course, Wi-Fi it wasn't connected to Wi-Fi. It wasn't connected to the network. So I think the stability had to do with this radio system.
Yeah, that's what
the order of stuff you did too. Like if you did something after something else, it wasn't good. But if you did it before something else, it was fine.
Actually, I'm sorry. I might have to. Well, I question that too because they didn't walk me through anything. I literally told them there's like a little banquet with like coffee. I literally told the person I'm not going to name that just go over there. Enjoy a snack. I want to play with this for 5 or 10 minutes. They didn't tell me not to do anything. They didn't tell me to stop anything. I'm not even as I'm trying to remember. I remember using the web browser, so it might have even been connected to Wi-Fi. Although who's to say they didn't make sure that it wouldn't access certain content that knows it can't hit. But I'm not saying I'm questioning that account. I'm saying that all I'm saying is that I had an experience. I had a free play experience with it that lasted for a half hour to 45 minutes, and at no point did it crash, and at no point did they say, "Don't touch." Oh.
I think it was the multitasking part where the music fades out and then you go and take the phone call and then you do the email and the web browser and then come back to the phone call, come back to the music. And they wanted to make sure that part got nailed on stage.
What book is that? Is that in the Apple Google book, Dogfight? It's a great story. The New York Times repeated it, but it's a great story from one of the iPhone engineers about how they were taking a shot in the front row of Moscone Center every time Steve got through another part of the demo. Oh my God, he survived. Oh.
It was still anybody who was there.
Golden Path.
I'll tell you, it was one of the
Let's
greatest
watch
live shows I have ever seen in my life.
Let's just watch a little bit of the magic of Steve Jobs.
Is a widescreen iPod with touch controls.
I remember sitting next to Scott Bourne and Alex Lindsay during this. Scott was so excited. So this is their announcement.
The second is a revolutionary mobile phone.
He says, we're announcing 3 things. Now, everybody's thrilled because we'd heard
That's the thing we were all expecting.
A phone. So a wide touchscreen iPod, a mobile phone, 3 new products from Apple.
And the third is a breakthrough internet communications device.
The audience is puzzled by that one. What?
Go back to the phone.
3 things. A widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an
Now they're
internet
starting to get it.
communicator.
I'm getting chills just watching
An
this.
iPod, a phone. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device.
And by the way, that's not just Apple employees cheering at that point.
And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
And it did.
Yeah.
Reinvented the computer. January 9th, 2007. And one little joke slide in there. There's an iPod with a dial.
Actually, here it is, but we're going to leave it there for
Oh,
now.
he's got it in his pocket.
So,
Steve Jobs at the height of his powers.
No one has ever since, no one before, no one since able to do that. I mean, just a showman, but a technology genius. I mean, really it's amazing to watch him at the height, exactly at the height of his powers.
Not only that, but being able to see the absolute glee on his face. Showing this off. You've seen a lot of different tech keynotes, some of them for really important products. You never see just the level of genuine excitement that I can't believe I finally get to show people this thing that I've been dying to show people for the past year and a half.
Yeah. And I would have been in his shoes knowing now how risky this demo was going to be. I would have been a little nervous, but he wasn't.
I would not, if I were Steve Jobs, I would know I'm not going to get fired if this thing.
Well, that's true. Somebody else will lose his job. Yeah. By the way, Apple suppliers announced record December revenues as iPhone sales source. So it's in fact, the TechCrunch had a story that said the bigger iPhones are actually hurting Android sales a little bit. iPhone 6 and 6 Plus.
So many people, when I was using my iPhone 6 Plus at CES, who came up to me and goes, "Oh, iPhone 6 Plus, I just switched to that. I loved it. I used to have a Note, and I hated every minute of it. Now I'm using my iPhone." And
I gotta say, I read that article. I don't think that they shared the information that justifies the headline.
Android's market share dropped in most European markets and the U.S. Now, this is January 7th, 2015. This is from Kantar, which is Kantar World Panel Comtech, I presume an analyst group at Comtech. Impact of iPhone 6 and 6 Plus launch continued in the run-up to Christmas, with iOS growing its market share in all surveyed countries except Japan. While remaining the dominant, this is probably a key phrase, while remaining the dominant global OS, Android's market share dropped in most European countries and the U.S., the decline the first since September 2013. A decline in Android market share does not necessarily translate into bad news for all the ecosystem's players. The choices of brand and device within the ecosystem empowers consumers to drive different fortunes for the players.
There's also context. I mean, people have been waiting for a large screen iPhone for a long time, and it's not hard to assume that people who were waiting jumped on it, and you see a surge in that, and then as it goes 6 months, 9 months,
and it's
12 months into the
important.
cycle.
In Europe, for instance, Android is 70% of the market. Oh, that's down 3%.
In India, Windows Phone, I think, is huge.
Windows Phone is still huge, right?
BlackBerry's big in Sri Lanka. It depends where you go.
China's big in Android. It's just the headline of reaching the conclusion that the iPhone 6 is causing people to not buy Android phones, as opposed to there was a huge corral of people who were
in fact,
rushing to
the
get this phone.
article The article even says that most of the time it's not Android that's getting hurt. That most it's coming out of other places. Right. I have to say that much as I'm certainly glad that Apple introduced the 6 and the 6 Plus after using the 6 since it came out. Man, give me my 5S form factor back.
You don't like a bigger phone?
It's just too big. It doesn't fit in my pocket. I hate the side-mounted power button.
I have a 5S on my desk, and I pick it up, and I can't believe phones were ever that small.
Teeny weeny. Yeah. What is this teeny phone? See, this is a 6-inch. These are two 6-inch phones, and this is now the standard for me. So, Adam, I think you're going upstream on this one.
Look at that.
Well,
looks like it's
on the other hand, there's a lot of people who are, my wife also is fairly small, and she doesn't like it at all. I mean, she's like, this phone is just too big for me. My hands do not.
Strange because you see giant Android phones being used by small people all the time. So you do I asked on Android Central. I said, how many people want a 4-inch Android phone? Because I figured if everyone who owns an iPhone, if a bunch of people were lamenting the loss of smaller phones, that happened to Android a year or two ago. They started I think the HTC Mini was twice the size of my iPhone, and they just said no one cares, no one wants smaller phones, and they're used by tons of people of all shapes and sizes. It's really weird to see the difference in those two ecosystems.
I think the mistake is calling it a phone. The phone is no longer the big part of this thing.
It's an app.
It's an internet device. It's a widescreen iPod. The phone is less than a third. It's 1/10 of the functionality of these devices now, right?
It's an interesting question. I wonder if anyone's done, actual time study, installed something where they can tell how much time the phone app is used versus the other kinds of apps.
Messages is the most popular app on iOS.
Yeah, Messages makes sense. Yeah.
I never use I use the phone, 15, 20 times a month.
Well, you're in Upper New York State. That's
you'll get the phone any day now.
Someday you'll understand.
It's mostly walkie-talkie up there, isn't there? From farm to farm, ham radio.
Down the road, just said
we just tap into those wires that go by.
You still have party lines up there, right?
Hey, I grew up with a party line.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? All right.
I'm not making a prediction. I'm not making a prediction for the fall, but I wouldn't be surprised if Apple decided to make a compact phone. If Apple decided to realize that, I think that it's not just a case of fashion. I think that a lot of people really feel like they're being left behind because, again, if you have a smaller hand, and that's pretty much endemic to being a woman and not a man, it's not like you have the option now of choosing a smaller phone. Now you have the phone that's kind of too big, but you can deal with it, to the phone that's way, way too big, unless you want to go back to an iPhone 5C or a cheaper last year's model. So I think that I just feel like it would be a very Apple move to simply say that because we have such robust software and because we have the ability to tell our developers what to develop, we are going to also have a return to the old 4x3 form factor, the tiny, tiny, tiny phone, so that people don't feel as though they're being left behind by virtue of the fact that they have smaller hands.
I mean, it's a situation in part, when I sort of watch my wife working with it, that, it doesn't fit in her pockets. If she goes running, she has a shorts pocket. She can't even fit the 5S in those pockets. The 4S was the last one that worked for her in those. So it's just frustrating. She has a bike bag that goes under her bike seat when she goes biking. Again, the 5S barely fits, and she had to really cram that in. So the 6, no chance. It's just not going to fit.
I just wonder, what do people who use Android phones do? I mean, they just aren't small Android phones. Did it just over 2 years they got used to it?
You can get them. Maybe you can't get them at your AT&T store, but they're
usually low end.
Well,
yeah, but no. Samsung and HTC both make small, especially Samsung. The basic. Well, we have a 3-inch phone. We have a 3.25-inch phone. We have a metric 30-centimeter phone. We have a 33-centimeter phone. They have a very, very large product line, and at least it's out there, particularly if you're willing to buy an unlocked phone off contract. The responsibility of Apple is that they are the only source of iOS compatible phones. So if they don't make it, you can't get it anywhere. which I think to their point of view would say now we kind of have a responsibility to make sure that people who are physically different, and I'm not talking about smaller hands as a disability, but I'm talking about there are a range of people who use. I mean, it's the same. It's the same reason
it is
why
a disability.
Apple
Let's face it. I mean, if
you
you can't palm a basketball either.
But it's the same reason why Apple was that company that said, you know what? Why don't we, when we have human faces, they will all be either dark blue or light blue. We're not even going to get into the skin tone game because we don't want people to think that our representation of a user and a user icon is going to be someone of a specific skin tone.
Didn't we kind of
that's why I say I feel like it's a very Apple move for them to do.
Maybe we didn't excoriate Samsung for doing this, but that's kind of what Samsung has done, is they just kind of made every size possible.
That's always what they've done. It's been quite successful. They wouldn't. I don't think anybody, when they came up with the first Samsung Galaxy Note, I don't think anybody could have made a use case for a crazy stupid big phone. But when they said we have the manufacturing capability, we will make a crazy stupid big phone. And if it fails, we won't make it next year. Right. And it's surprised the hell out of me. It surprised professional analysts, and it surprised the hell out of the industry that there are people who are actually really interested into it. So
yeah, I just want a big screen on my computer.
Is true of the Android phones is that my experience is that the people who buy Android phones a lot of the time are doing it more on price, and so they're not as involved with their phones as iPhone users usually are, and so they may be willing to compromise more. That, oh yeah, that's what they had at the store. It seemed fine, so I got it. Maybe they would be happier with a smaller phone, but that wasn't an easy option, so they didn't get it. You buy what you can get easily and then what's cheap. So that's
I think globally, that's why
Samsung Mini is 4.3 inches.
Yeah, I think globally that's why Android does so well. But in the U.S., I'm not sure that's the case. Half of all phone sales. So Apple's got 47.4% of phone sales.
The bigger challenge.
The other half is Android, for the most part. I mean, I would say very close. And I don't think all of them are buying it for price. I think a lot of them buy it for functionality. I buy it. I'm an Android user for functionality.
The bigger challenge with the smaller phone is how they're going to price it. So, for example, the bigger phone is $100 more. The iPhone 6 Plus is $100 more than the regular iPhone. If they make a small one, is $100 cheaper? Then is it the same price as last year's model?
Is that a 3GS compared to a 6?
That's the first generation iPhone compared to the iPhone 6 Plus.
Right.
Wow. And then you compare that to here was like the leading smartphone before the iPhone came out.
Look at the size of that screen.
Okay.
What if they did a flip phone? What if Apple did a flip phone? Come on, that's what people want.
No, but it's interesting because Apple, it's easy to say Apple can make a smaller phone, but would it be a 6C then, because they'd use the plastic as a way to say yes, that's why it's $100 cheaper, not just the size, but it's a less premium product.
Right.
That could be. And I guess what I'm saying is that a lot of the time when I'm seeing, again, this is upstate New York. I am not in Silicon Valley. I'm not in a city.
Yes.
And when I see people buy Android phones, a lot of the times I'm seeing it because they're cheaper. That is the simple fact. This is not a rich area, and people are not interested in being the latest and greatest. They just need a phone, and that's what's selling these days.
That's a really important thing to point out, because I'm one of those people who, mostly because of my job, that when people are using phones, I really am trying to sneak a look to see what kinds they're using. And, if you go to, there are certain places where you see nothing but iPhones, but if you're waiting for a bus, you will see a lot of Androids out there. If you go to like a Chipotle, which is a place where lots and lots of people of all economics classes, levels come, you will see a much wider variety of devices. If you go to, again, I'm not even talking about like hoity-toity places. If you go to a Panera Bread, you will see that most people are actually not using MacBooks. They're using Dells, they're using Asus's, they're using Acer machines, and they're very, very happy with them. Yeah. So
it's probably self-selecting. If you go to Starbucks with a MacBook, you probably see other people who've gone to Starbucks with a Mac.
Well, if you're going to be shown fake not writing your screenplay, you may as well be fake not writing on the best laptop available.
It was funny at CES, at Win and Encore, places like that. I saw a lot more. Like most years, you see a wide variety. You see people with purple flip BlackBerry phones, and this year, especially just going around the hotel, I saw mostly iPhones, and I don't know if and not even new ones. They were iPhone 5s and 5Ss and things like that.
Okay, so just speaking of the iPhone 5, another one of the things that we were talking about in the pre-show stuff, links, was the most popular camera on Flickr is still an iPhone 5.
Yeah,
so many in the wild.
Not the 5S.
But doesn't that include all previous postings, or is it just for this year? I mean, I should look at that number. Is that all total? Because then it would make sense. That one.
No, it was 2014.
For 2014. Okay.
And then they had difference. It was different from. It was actually the iPhone 5 was up from 2013 for top mobile camera. And this was, I just thought this was fascinating. I mean, because you normally expect, the old ones will drop off slowly and the new ones will replace them. And I could see the iPhone 6 not being on this list because it came out obviously.
I think the 5S would be the dominant.
But right, why not the 5S?
Next year, Leo.
Next year. And then, so there's a 1-year lag, maybe.
Also, people tend to, I forget where I heard this, but people tend to hand down their iPhones a lot. Not many people get rid of them or put them in a drawer.
No,
They
that's
give
true.
them to other people, and then,
That's true.
they propagate.
I finally got rid of a 4S because everything later than the 4S ended up going to somebody.
But I mean, is Flickr a good barometer now, or do we have to find out what the Snapchat numbers are to really get a good index of photo usage?
Let's
Do
take
lot
a
of people
break.
Still use Flickr?
We got a great panel. We've got Adam Engst from Tidbits, the longest-running internet Macintosh publication, which you must get if you're not already a member, tidbits.com. And you know what? It's free, but throw them some money. Throw them a little money. And of course, Mr. Rene Ritchie from imore.com and Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times. Do you guys shave?
Only on New Year, Leo.
You're somewhat hirsute. I just want to tell you about Harry's. It's not too late to join the shave revolution. Harry's, a great shave at a fraction of the price. Holidays are over. Now we just got to save money and groom. Grooming is so important. Shaving, I have to admit, is not fun, but I can't grow a beard. I don't want to grow a beard. I like having a clean shaved face, and so I'm willing to spend money on a good clean shave. That's why I was spending $4 a blade on my Gillette Fusion till I found Harry's. Harry's is a better blade for less money. I choose Harry's not because it saves me money, although it does. I choose Harry's because it makes the best blades. They're fantastic. They engineer them for sharpness and high performance, and they can do that because they own the factory in Germany where the blades are made. They guarantee your satisfaction, and a Harry's kit is a great deal. There's the Winston. That's what I have several Winstons. That's $25. The Truman is $15. And with every kit, not only do you get the great handle, I think really the big difference is the handle between the Winston and Truman. The Winston has a nice engraved metal handle, and I think actually the plastic handle on the Truman is actually pretty nice. Steve Gibson chose that one because he likes the feel of that in his hand. You might want more than one Harry's razor kit. They're so affordable. With each kit, you get 3 blades, the Harry's shave gel or shave cream, your choice. And by the way, I love, and it seems like a little thing, but the Harry's travel cover is really great. There it is. There's my Harry's, and the travel cover. So when you're going to put this in your DOP kit, this little travel cover, don't throw that out. You might think, oh, well, that was just something to hold it. No, this is great. It's got a little ventilation so the blade dries out, and it keeps you from cutting yourself. It protects the blade. This is actually, I've never seen this before. I love it. Thank you, Harry's. Free shipping for orders over $10 anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. You could choose from the foaming gel. A lot of people like that. It's kind of, more like the gels you'd see in the store. I personally prefer the cream. It comes out of a tube, and it just is smooth. That's what I use every morning. But I do love my Harry's blades. Change your blade regularly. You absolutely want to get a Harry's kit and then sign up for a subscription. And they have a new aftershave moisturizer that protects and hydrates skin. I've been putting this on my head because I needed something to protect my bald head for a while. And this is great. Harry's, HARRYS.com. Get $5 off your first purchase with the offer code MacBreak. HARRYS.com. Use the offer code MacBreak, get $5 off. That makes the Truman set $10. You just put that right on there and rub it in. It's just nice. It smells good
great too. Yeah.
Oh, it feels so good. Harry's, HARRYS.com. Do it. Do it. Do it. All right.
I just want everything to be like Harry's, Leo. I want a Harry's for every product. They're so fantastic.
You know what? I think that's kind of the world, the internet world we dream of, and we're slowly getting there, aren't we? Because there was Warby Parker kind of changed the way we buy glasses. In fact, we have many of our advertisers are that. Casper changed the way I buy mattresses. Coffee, Tonks Coffee. We have many of the advertisers on our network are people who are, because they're going after the early adopters of forward-thinking technology enthusiasts.
We saw Casper at CES. They let us jump on their bed. It was amazing.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. There you go. That's a mattress at CES.
Yes.
It tells you something. Apple Watch, do we have a date?
It'll be like the iPad. It'll be like the original iPad.
It'll be ready when it's ready. Is that what you're saying?
You want a date with the Apple Watch?
I do want a date. I have a date with the Apple Watch. I just want to know when I can.
The rose gold one. He's gonna dine it.
I want to know the pricing too. So according to Mark Gurman, 9 to 5 Mac, how often do we say that on the show? According to Mark Gurman, 9 to 5 Mac, March. And the retail training is set for mid-February.
He came back from vacation with a vengeance.
This guy, I tell you, it's because he's young. You remember being young.
Stamina.
He's got stamina. Senior Vice President of Retail, Angela Arantz, has been telling employees the launch will occur in the spring after the Chinese New Year. We mentioned that. But now he's got some more concrete information. 1 or 2 representatives from any Apple stores in the U.S. will be sent to Cupertino or Austin to get training firsthand on the watch February 9th and February 16th, or between February 9th and 16th. That's the 1 week. In the couple of days preceding the official watch release, these employees will then train other employees in their respective stores. You can wear it on the left wrist, or you can wear it on the right wrist.
You're crowning it wrong. Stop
But you're crowning it wrong. In the months following the device's introduction, in September, Apple has been polishing up the Watch OS and putting the device's battery through more extensive testing. Come on, you got your ear to the tracks, Rene, Ritchie. Have you heard any rumors?
No, I mean, a lot of people are trying them. I think there was, people throughout Apple are working on them.
You see people wearing them now, right?
Yeah. People are wearing them. They're throwing all the different features out, and they're going to get some real life metrics. I think that's why Apple was very careful not to announce a specific battery life.
Well, and Mark even hedges this because he says unexpected delays could always push the watch back, and no one's saying battery life hours.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is real until Apple holds it up on stage. Right. Everything else is just criminology.
We know $349 for the cheap sport model, the one you don't want.
I think a lot of people will like that. In fact, a lot of people have told me they're getting the gold one or also getting the sport ones. They don't have to wear the gold one every day.
I know Adam Engst will because he's a sporty fella.
Well, I will honestly because, if we're going to have to be getting one of these every year or 2 years, I'm certainly not spending more than I have to on it every time.
Yeah. Again, the pricing of the stainless steel one, I think, is going to define the entire line because you can definitely say that $350 is the minimum buy-in for the sport edition, the quote cheap one, unquote. And the cheap one is $100 to $200 more expensive to $250 more expensive than its 2 biggest competitors.
Right.
If the stainless steel one is $700 to $800 to $900, okay, you're clearly not talking about a consumer product because we know that the gold one is just. I'm sorry, I should correct myself. We don't know how much the gold one is going to cost. When you talk to anybody who makes watches and simply says that quantity of gold means this puts us into many thousands of dollars. I really think that Apple's going to have to be very careful about how they price the stainless steel one.
Rumor sites are saying $500 for stainless. That would be okay, right?
That's within reach. See, I'm so glad that I've had so much experience with the Android Wear because so many things that I would never have guessed about my beliefs about wearable smartwatches were just completely wrong. Among them, that if this were just for $250, this watch I'm wearing right now, if all it was a source of really cool digital timepieces, and it had a few nice functions on the side, but basically I'm still wearing it as a watch. It would not be ridiculous for me to spend $250 for a watch that has really cool watch faces that I could keep swapping out. It makes double sense when you're talking about a $99 device like the Pebble. So I could certainly see if all Apple manages to achieve is to come up with a really cool, stylish watch that has some impeccably designed watch faces, and there are new ones coming out every single month. There are a lot of people who would spend $350 for a watch like that. I spent $250 for my first and last really nice mechanical watch, so I could see that happening. And then, of course, it'll do much more than that. So pricing, I think, $500 for a stainless steel watch, especially something that looks as nice and has the sort of presence of that stainless steel watch. That was one of the watches I was able to try in September. That's a nice thing to have on your wrist, and that doesn't seem like it's ridiculous. But if it's going to cost you like the cost of a MacBook Air to put this on your wrist, that's something else entirely.
If you go to 9to5mac.com now, Leo, he's got pictures of the companion app up.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
There's a bunch of new features in there, too.
And then the other thing I want to talk about before we go, let me just run over to 9 to 5. Whoops, I went to 9to5.com, which is not what I was hoping for. Don't go there, children. 9to5mac.com, that's more like it. Companion app. This is the one that would be on
the phone, yeah.
Phone.
So there's like there's a home screen management and communications preferences and monograms. You can monogram
This is
the watch
nice.
if you want to.
A lot of features. You can also some health features, like you can be reminded to stand up if you've been sitting for the first 50 minutes of an hour.
That was announced at September.
Yeah. Push alerts.
So there's so many little details, though. I know a lot of people who do keep their watches set like 5 minutes slow or 5 minutes fast, so that they feel as though they're always ahead of schedule.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see if it will just simply allow you to say, please set the time automatically, but give me an extra 5 minutes.
Right. So the watch will have grayscale and accessibility features, voiceover. That's cool. Zoom.
Yep.
Push alerts from phone notification. Monogram is weird. So what that is on the color
Your
watch
initials,
face.
It'll put your initials on the watch face.
Leo. It's nice having a 3-letter name or a 4-letter name, Rene.
Yeah.
You could fit it on there. And here's the activity stuff. Okay, cool. So the other thing that happened of interest, I think, to Mac users at CES was Intel announced its new Broadwell chips. This is the talk in the TikTok cycle. A 14-nanometer processor. They announced the mobile parts. Typically, when you hear an announcement like that, it's Apple is first to the table with a laptop based on it. They've been very close to Intel, but it was Dell that gets pride of place here with the new XPS 13, which interestingly is basically a MacBook Air, but a lot thinner. They claim 15 hours of battery life. That's what you'd expect an improvement with this 5th generation.
Is that the one with the fancy sharp screen?
Yeah, they have two choices. They have a touch screen. You can get the non-touch screen for $799, or let's say $800, $800 to $1,000. But if you want the touch screen, you can get a Quad HD Plus, they call it, which is let me just quickly get the resolution of what the hell Quad HD Plus is.
Well, they were crowing at CES about some exclusive deal with Sharp for high density.
Yeah, it's probably
super power
2550
efficient
by 1440, but let me see if I can find it. And I don't know in a 13-inch display if you really want that kind of resolution, but you can
It was
get it.
supposed to be a 13-inch display that fit in like an 11-inch or 12-inch.
Yeah, and remember we saw, look at the size of the bezel on those.
Yeah.
Remember we saw these mock-ups of a new 12-inch MacBook Air that, is similarly, and I think the fact that the Broadwell has come out, that other manufacturers are making and selling computers within in it, to me, I would guess in the next few weeks we're going to see an update to the MacBook Air. With the potentially this QHD or whatever they call it.
Depends on Apple's cycles. I mean, they updated it last WWDC.
You don't think they're gonna sit on this one?
I don't think they'll rush for just because Intel's finally pushed out Broadwell.
Also, there's the iPhone 6 effect, where there's so many people who have been delaying, I think, buying a MacBook Air because they know a Retina model is coming out. Right. They know they're going to have to come through with quantity immediately. So I don't think it's going to happen really immediately quickly.
So you think June?
I would say spring. The Apple Watch announcement kind of throws a monkey wrench into things, because if Apple makes their first radically different MacBook since the total redesign, since Retina really, that's going to be something that they don't want to just slip out in a Wednesday afternoon press release. They're going to want to have to show it off in some way, shape, or form. But they certainly want to have enough air around the watch so that everybody's attention is on that instead. If I were to guess, I would say April, but that really is a guess.
It's amazing how we all said there's nothing's coming from Apple, especially in the springtime seasons, and now there's the watch and the new Apple TV and the iPad Pro and the new MacBook Air and on. Well,
spring has always been at least a half likely time for them to introduce either new notebooks or updates to notebooks, because that's when a lot of orders have to happen for later in the school year, especially for school systems. But yeah, it's of all the things to try to pin down, I mean, Macs are just almost. If anybody tells you that they know a schedule for Apple's releases, they're trying to get you to buy them a drink and tell them stuff.
I'll tell you, I was so close to pushing the button on this Dell, and then I thought, oh well, no, there'll be a MacBook Air with these specs. So that's disappointing to me. This is 3200 by 1800, which is 276 pixels per inch at 400 nits. It's very bright as well. It's also super light. It's 2.6 pounds.
Yeah.
And some people have held this, have said it feels flimsy because it's so light, but they have a new magnesium process. This is, it's too bad it's...
Doesn't run OS 10.
Too bad it's running Windows, because I really think this is a great laptop, and I think Apple's a little bit missing the boat if they don't
Well, it depends it depends what they come to. They might be waiting on some other component that this doesn't have, or that's not ready for them yet. It'll be easier to tell when it actually comes out and you can compare them side by side.
It's also, but also look at the pricing. That is not in any way a cheaply made laptop, and it's $800 for a 13-inch. You would certainly call that a Retina display, even without the touch.
Yeah. Nice.
It's
All
a
right.
terrible responsibility Apple has. I don't envy them whatsoever to have to attend to every need of every consumer and buy and build everything. It's just such a hard position for them.
They're the only guys. Can I Hackintosh this? Seriously,
I love they're being pushed though by competition. I mean, that's the best for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's that's a good 2:10 in the afternoon topic for discussion, not 1 minute before 4. So I will simply say yes, I agree with that. I do, but it's a really good topic for discussion.
Can I Hackintosh this? Is this still possible out in the world?
You have to wait for the kids to get a hold of it, Leo.
The kids. Once the kids get it,
they have to find a flaw in Yosemite to make that happen.
Oh.
Also, good luck. I think good luck finding a driver for that display.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to live with Windows. It's okay. I can live with Windows. I'm using a Windows phone now, so why not? I'm going to go all Windows. What do you think? Do I have to?
I mean, they need to now that Ed Bott and what's his name left.
Yeah, right. Ed Bott's now driving an Android.
Warren. Yeah.
Tom Warren. Christ, they need
only
me.
Paul Thoreau and Daniel Rubino left.
That's right.
That's a great move because
Cortana says, "Hey, brother, anything I can do?" I like that. I had Cortana call me brother. Brother from another mother.
My carbon-based brother.
My carbon-based brother. All right, we want to take a break. Come back. Your picks. I don't know if, Adam, if we warned you, you've done this before. Something cool, something neat, something you'd like everybody to know about.
I'd pick something unusual.
Something unusual would be nice. Maybe that internet starter kit.
I think the internet. I think it's going to go somewhere.
I think this is the time.
That's
jump
if you're
on
not
that.
on the internet now. You really should get
jump on that wagon. Our show today brought to you by LegalZoom.com. Not a law firm, but better. LegalZoom helps you get your legal work done at a very affordable price. You'll save on your legal needs, gain access to a network of legal plan attorneys so you can ask questions. Getting your life organized would be great to start the new year with, but where do you start? Protecting your family? If you don't have a will, yes. Take control of your family's future with a will or living trust. It's inexpensive. It's easy to do. We just got the will kit. It is so cool. You get a nice, beautiful binder and all the paperwork. It's so great. You can also take control of your financial affairs. Ready to start a business? You should really go to LegalZoom.com to do the LLC thing or the Chapter S or C Corp. If you already have a business, trademarks. There's all sorts of information there. I love it. For more than 10 years now, LegalZoom has helped millions of people, including me, get the personalized attention they need. I have been very happy with the service, the support, the price at LegalZoom.com. And you know what's nice? And I hadn't used this before, but they added this recently. If you'd like more help, they can connect you with independent attorneys in almost every state. They've pre-vetted these. You can read their online profiles and even reviews from users, unedited reviews from users, so you can see which one's right for you. LegalZoom, it's not a law firm. It's better. Don't let another year pass before getting your life in order. For legal help you can count on for your family or your business, go to LegalZoom.com. If you use our offer code MBW, you'll get $10 off at checkout, and they'll know where you heard about it, and that's important to our panel and me. LegalZoom, it's how we pay the electric bill. LegalZoom.com, use the offer code MBW. You save $10, and we'll be able to keep the lights on a little bit longer. LegalZoom. All right, you got something weird, got something different? Let's hear it. Adam Engst of Tidbits.com.
Okay, so this actually does sort of come from the kids in that I heard it from my wife's niece and nephew, her aunt's kids who are high school, college age, and it's not an app, it's not a program, it's not something you're going to use on your computer. It's fiction, and it's online fiction. It's called Worm. And it's superhero fiction for those of us who were always more into the stories than the art. And, I can read a comic book in 5 minutes. It's really it just goes way too fast. But this lets me imagine it all in my head in terms of what's going on. It's, the guy's a new writer, but he's pretty good, and he gets better throughout it. I guess it took him a couple of years to write this. It's all blog posts. It comes, doing it twice a week, I guess, for those years. And I have to say, it's a pretty compelling story. You get into it, and you want to read the next chapter.
Neat.
I've been reading it all on the iPhone, using the reader mode to get it up to a nice size, and I recommend it. People who like comics, worth trying.
And this is a Patreon?
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and I just ran into it recently, so I'm not even done with it. I was just like, this is really cool. I'm really enjoying this, and so it's just something a little different this time.
For all the negatives we talk about on the internet, this is really what it's all about. Is that somebody can do this is so great, and maybe live their dream while you get great stuff.
Awesome.
I love it. And so the website for this is parahumans, parahumans.wordpress.com. That's the actual URL, but I bet you there's a short one. Is there a short one? No. Nope.
That's the only way I found it. So.
Google Worm online fiction. Maybe that'll help. Not WURM, although that would have been good. WORM, not worm. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week.
I have to call an audible here from yesterday because I bought an app for the iPad over the weekend that came so highly recommended by a friend of mine, and I really was excited about it, and then it failed on me miserably yesterday. So I'm gonna keep on working at it to see if maybe I screwed something up or something happened. But in the meantime, so I'll pull an all-star out of the archives, which is Shirt Pocket Software's super duper backup utility, because that one really came through for me last week, where it's a backup utility that unlike Time Machine, it's a good companion for Time Machine, because whereas Time Machine makes incremental backups and puts it in a form where restoring a hard drive to a workable condition takes a long time and it's hard to have multiple backups, Super Duper will take your entire drive. It will give you a disk image file that will be openable by any version of the operating system that works with disk utility. And it's easy to simply put you right back where you started from with a bootable drive, even taking an internal drive and cloning it onto a bootable external drive. Anything you want to do, it'll help you with it. My problem was that I'm putting away an older Mac that I already have a backup of somewhere, but I want to say, okay, well, you know what? I haven't really used this for about a year. Let's just make one last final backup. The reason why I was finally really putting it away was because the drive was starting to throw off bad sectors. So it was still working, but occasionally would crash. Super Duper it's not a disk repair utility, but it's written so well that when it fails, it is absolutely verbose about what happened. No, sorry, data could not be written, operation failed. Here's a button, here is everything that I was doing for the entire 6 hours I was trying to back up this drive, and here is the thing I tried to do that caused things to fail. So that became really, really easy over the course of 6 or 7 different backup attempts to identify those very, very few files that have been affected by this, delete or move those files, and then finally have a complete backup, minus 5 files entirely. So yes, there are $100 utilities that will maybe fix damage and diagnose stuff. That was not going to be necessary. I was glad that this $27 utility that I rely on every single day to back up really all my critical data was able to be generous enough to help me fix a problem as well. And the great thing is $27 is what you pay to unlock things like scheduling features and bonus stuff like that. Anybody right now can go to shirtpocket.com, download this app for free, and press that one button and back up their hard drive with it. It's not like a time-limited thing. It's like the core feature, which is to click a button, create a disk image. A bootable disk image that is a clone of this drive that I'm pointing it to is completely free, and it's just $27 for the stuff that makes it a daily use utility. Great stuff.
You know, you feel like anybody who has a Mac by now should know my Super Duper, but I think it's still often people don't.
Yeah. A lot of people, they think that I've got Time Machine, so I don't need another backup utility. Again, it's a good companion for those two because they work with each other very well.
Yeah.
I was going to say I use Super Duper all the time, except for the fact that I never see it because it kicks off at 9:22 at night, backs up my machine, and goes to sleep. It just disappears. I never see it at all. Like, oh yeah, is that still running? And every time I check, oh yeah, look, it's still running. And make sure check in on it. Great stuff.
Also, Dave Nanian is an amazing phone and computer fan of all different platforms.
Yeah, I should also mention that whenever I talk about both this and BB Edit, I have to say that Dave Nanian is one of my best friends. I had dinner with him over the weekend, but one of the reasons why we became friends is because I was having a problem with Super Duper, and he immediately started replying, and we had conversation. Well, he said, why doesn't it do this? Or should have a progress bar that gives you a time, and it will say, well, that would be a great idea. Unfortunately, here's how it's difficult for us to do that sort of a feature. And anytime that we're making plans to see a movie, oftentimes it's like, okay, I got to answer these 130 customer emails first, but then we can go. So again, great guy, awesome. Great product.
Highly, highly recommended. If you have a Mac, you have to have that program. Rene, Ritchie, your pick of the week.
So I have a tip more than a pick. When I was at the iPhone or iPad event, I was talking to Dieter Bohn, who's currently managing editor at The Verge, and we were talking about how you could cover events with just iPhones, and he had the idea of using hyperlapse from Instagram, but using it in 1x mode. So not using it to speed anything up, but just using it in real-time mode. And because it does all that fancy sensor-derived auto-stabilization, he thought that it would do a really good job of capturing, sometimes when you're by yourself and using an iPhone, it's jittery or it moves around a lot. So we tried it out at CES. There was a time when all the cameras were out and we had to go run and actually film some of the HomeKit stuff. And all we had was a couple iPhones. So we used one as a microphone, we used the other as a video recorder, and we used hyperlapse in 1x mode, and it was really solid. There was no jitter. Even when our hands moved a little bit, hyperlapse compensated for that. And then we just airdropped all the files to the same Mac and put it all together in Final Cut Pro, and it worked really, really well.
I want to see it. Do you have a link?
If you go to imore.com, it's the Incipio video. They should be right at the top.
Oh, good. That's, I've always thought, why do we bring all these big cameras? We've got these great cameras in our phones, but I think improving the quality to the point.
You don't get the depth of field and some of the other things that you get with a fancy.
But wait a minute, this is shot with an iPhone in hyperlapse?
Yep.
Wow. You know what? It looks like a Steadicam.
Yeah, it's not perfect because I was a little bit jittery, especially at first. But yeah, and she's recording all. When you see her talking to her iPhone, she's recording all the audio on the iPhone as well.
Has an app which controls all of its various.
I have to say, this is every bit as good as the $1,500 a day camera package and shooter we pay for.
Rene, if you ever get into manufacturing, I'm going to give you $1 million an idea. An iPhone case that makes it look like one of those old-timey news broadcaster sort of microphones.
Yeah.
If we plan, I mean, she had just gotten a case from someone who was making Pantone cases, so she slapped it on her phone and didn't think about it, and then we ran out. If we had our time.
This is just. Did you notice there's a significant smoothing of the video from hyperlapse?
Not especially. I mean, the one problem I have with hyperlapse is if you don't pay attention, you can easily save it in 6x mode, and then you're stuck. Yeah, you can't go back and undo it. So I have a couple. I took a picture. I went to the Canon booth and looked at all their magnificent, glorious glass and this long stretch, and I did a video with it in hyperlapse, hoping that it'd be super stable, and then accidentally hit the 6x button. And then tried to slow it down, and it was like a series of stills.
Yeah.
So you have to pay really close attention, and there's no second chance. But if you really need to use it, it does a really good job.
This is remarkable. Hyperlapse is free from Instagram, and if you have an iPhone, you ought to have hyperlapse. And by the way, as to date, still no Android version, although they said it was capable with Lollipop. Wow, I
should point out the zoom was done in Final Cut.
I saw these great zooms. I thought you were going like
this.
No,
the zoom was because me stepping around would not be good for anybody.
I was impressed. Hey, I have a quick recommendation, and it ties into the next show because I don't. If you've seen The Imitation Game, you already know what a great movie it is. Benedict Cumberbatch plays Alan Turing. It is a beautiful, well-made, brilliant movie that highlights not only the guy who helped, probably single-handedly with the help of his team, beat the Germans in World War II by cracking their code machine, Enigma, but also really laid the foundations for the computers we use today, and was horribly persecuted by the British government afterwards because he's gay, and ended up committing suicide. It's a very moving movie, and at the end, I'm kind of like teary because they say he invented computers, and just really didn't get acknowledged until last year when our friend John Graham Cumming created a petition which persuaded the British government and the Queen of England to pardon him and apologize for the persecution. If you haven't seen this game yet, I don't know if you guys seen it.
I saw it. A beautiful movie.
Really well.
It's between that, The Theory of Everything. What a great season for movies about smart people.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
I was a little worried because, I'd read some reviews that said, oh, here we go again. They're going to portray the mathematician as this kind of weird, nerdy guy. I think this was actually a pretty accurate portrayal of Turing. It's based on a very complete biography of him. And I think Cumberbatch is amazing.
Steve was raving about it all year.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about it is that the trope that you often see is that he's a mathematical genius. He's just, you see him bouncing a ball, then suddenly like the ball. Wait a minute, that's it.
That's what I don't like.
No,
right. But this doesn't do that.
Cranking on this problem for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and then he and his team get this first tiniest inkling, not that this thing is working, but that, oh, it has now failed in such a way that maybe now we think this actually will work. Oh, just such a great lesson that success comes is the daughter of, or the son of, just hundreds and hundreds of little failures.
And I do look forward to seeing the Theory of Everything, the Stephen Hawking story, because I hear very good things about that too. So a couple of good movies for geeks in the theaters today.
I actually went to an advanced screening, and I have the commemorative advanced screening plastic.
Oh, nice.
tumbler.
Nice.
Nice. I don't know what that has to do with Hawking, but I have a free tumbler. I don't have to run the dishwasher for yet one more meal.
The Imitation Game, highly recommended. Thank you, everybody. And the reason I mention that is because on our next show on our recording schedule, Steve Gibson is going to explain how Enigma works.
Awesome.
I think this should be fun. So Security Now is coming up. And unless Security News has prompted a change of schedule, which sometimes does happen, the secrets of Enigma coming up on the Twit Network. Thank you very much, Adam Engst, for making some time for us in the bitterly cold
I got to stay inside. Are you kidding? This was perfect.
He brought his penguin, and we're glad to have him. Everybody must go to Tidbits, TIDBITS.com, and sign up today.
Thank you, Leo.
Must read. It's where I get all my Mac information and have for 24 years.
Yeah, coming up in 25 in April.
That's so awesome.
We do not yet know what we're going to do, but something's got to be happening.
Yeah.
25 years. Jesus.
That's nice. Thank you, Adam. Really appreciate it. We should have you back more often. You're so great. Rene Ritchie from imore.com, a regular on the show. Always glad to have you. Glad you survived CES without any noticeable wear and tear.
Yeah, or no plague also.
No plague. That's
is it possible?
That's beating the odds. I don't know how you do it.
He was actually wearing a gas mask the whole time.
Hazmat suit.
Yeah.
And Andy Ihnatko, of course, always great to have you from the Chicago Sun-Times. What a great team we have on this show. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1900 UTC if you're watching anywhere around the world. That's the live version. It's probably a little confusing to people because it kind of looks like this might be like a television station. Basically, what we do is we turn on the cameras and you can watch as we produce the shows. There's stuff before and after, sometimes produced, sometimes haphazard, sometimes just a long shot of the studio sitting there. But if you do want to watch live, we love having you here because it's the only way you can interact directly with us via our chat room at irc.twit.tv. If you can't be here live, that's fine. We have on-demand of all of our shows, audio and video available, in this case at twit.tv, our website, twit.tv/MBW for MacBreak Weekly. Or look for MacBreak Weekly. Since this is one of the oldest podcasts in the universe, almost 10 years old, I'm sure you can find a copy anywhere podcasts are aggregated, or use our great Twit apps on iOS and Android and Windows Phone. Thanks for being here. Now back to work, because you know what? Break time is over.